We will call the meeting to order at 9:06. Today we're here to discuss the budget. We'll start with going over what we've done up to this point to reconcile all the accounts, and I guess a report from Ron, the interim director, and the interim director. So if you want to kick this off there,
Are we
Erica.
This is first on the agenda now? Oh, was I wrong about this?
That's first?
It is. It was, yeah.
It is first on the agenda.
Okay.
Why are we moving that first?
Oh, sorry, I meant the
kayaks.
Yeah, I thought that's what that was. Yeah, I can't read it.
They're first on the agenda.
I don't have the agenda in front of me. My apologies. So
There were only 2 items, so you had a 50-50 chance.
I did. Hello.
So
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I haven't been in contact with the staff in the last week and a half.
Week and a half or so.
Yeah, so I don't know what all was transpired since then.
I'll let these guys take that.
So
I can do
are the
this.
cash
Well, can I stop for a second?
Oh.
Because don't we? I mean, aren't we obligated to go in the order of?
We are. You need
Okay.
to go in the order of
Okay,
your
so we need to do the
agenda.
kayaks first.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be
Okay.
rude. I'm just trying to ensure that we follow
Step back on
protocol.
that one.
Right.
Yeah,
Do
I
an
apologize.
agenda change so that we finish this, because
Okay.
Steve's not here. Isn't his name Steve? The
No,
kayak
Dave.
guy?
Dave.
No, Pete.
Pete.
Pete couldn't be here today.
Rochambeau.
Oh, he's not coming at all.
So I would make a motion that we move the kayak discussion to after the budget discussion.
Okay.
I second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Go ahead.
So the
Thank you.
the bank reconciliations, I think you were making really good progress on that. At least you sent me that one. It looked like it worked.
For the M&O.
Yeah, and the payroll account.
Yep.
How about through the end of the year? Did you get?
14 is done.
Okay.
2014 is done.
Okay.
I'm waiting on March from her. I
Okay.
can't reconcile it with the Allen Bank until she's done entering
All right.
QuickBooks.
Okay.
Which would be done if the internet had not been out all day yesterday.
So how about AR for 2014?
We have a couple that we are trying to track down if they were really legitimate or not, and then the status of them. So I think we are getting in touch with Skagit Valley College so that we can try and clear that, because they're one of them that is listed, and it's a large sum.
Yeah.
Other than that, they're pretty much just those 2 or 3 little things that we need to chase down. We have the really old ones that we need some guidance in. The best way to offset those with a journal entry, and then they can come off.
Yeah, we might have to do that through cash receipts functionality and just code it to a bad debt expense. It's tough to know whether they're truly bad debt without, maybe they were collected and the receipt wasn't applied to the account. But that would mean that the revenue probably got posted twice in a prior year. So at some point we have to just suck it up, and now if they're really old, we could post it to accumulated retained earnings, something like that.
I think some of them are about 8 years old.
Yeah, so I'll work with you on that. So I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to look at the current balance sheet or P&L for 2014 to really see, but and then how about posting for December and November? And I didn't see anything on there for in the aging that had a November or December date.
For the receivables?
Yeah, or was there just not any in those months?
I know there were a couple of receivable accounts outstanding from the school district for some swim lessons, and I believe we recently received some payment.
So that were they from November or December of 2014? Okay.
In October?
Yeah,
as I say, I think they're from the last October, November, and December.
because those were the invoices that weren't actually mailed to
Yes.
the school district.
Oh, they weren't mailed?
No, they were sitting.
No, they were in my file cabinet.
Okay.
So I found it when we were.
When she took over, she found a
Yeah.
bunch of invoices that hadn't been mailed out.
So those invoices, the dates, are they prior to December 31st? Because I didn't see anything
Yes.
on the aging report.
They were,
from-
I believe they were October,
Okay.
an October invoice.
So my point was that I just didn't, on the aging, I didn't see too many invoices from November or December that were outstanding. So I was wondering if they got either billed and posted somewhere else, or they didn't get billed, or what. But you and I can work on that too. So
We're still discovering things were posted in very random places.
Yeah.
And we're having to chase down why this invoice went into that went into that, and
yeah.
doesn't make a lot of sense.
At some point, it may not be worth the time to figure out why. With the cash accounts, we know we can figure out what they should be at December 31st. And with AR, we probably could quickly make a judgment call what's going to be collected and what probably won't be collected, and then just adjust the difference. So I still need to work with them. Since it's been my busy season, I haven't been in contact with detail the last couple of weeks.
So April's busy, is that right?
March, April.
I'm kidding.
So 15th is next week, so I'll have some more time to.
Well, and I think that really is why we've kind of held off on emailing you with some stuff, just to let you get done with that
Okay.
part.
Well, thank you for being sensitive to that.
So just an overall question about this, trying to understand, things being posted in the wrong places. I guess, and I don't know if this is a you question or a you question or a you question.
All of us.
Okay, is how do we, what checks and balances do we need to have in place to ensure that if mistakes are going to get made, and we understand that, but how do we catch them? I mean, and small ones might be, we have humans involved, there are going to be mistakes, and that's understandable. But how do we catch things that are, what process, what policies do we need to have in place, and what reviews do we need to have in place to ensure that we can catch things moving forward?
Right. So it's for just a couple examples. We'll probably have to develop some policies, procedures, and some review processes for bank accounts. A bank account should be reconciled within just a couple days after the bank statement is available. And that bank statement then should be reviewed by the executive director, and then the executive director in that review process should question old outstanding checks, things that just don't look right to them. The executive director would develop an expectation of what's coming in and what's going out, and if the bank reconciliation doesn't support those expectations, then they should question that and review it. And the executive director should initial the bank reconciliation and the bank statement and date it so that they know that someone else could look at it and know that it has been reviewed. And that protects the person doing the bank reconciliation, but it also is documentation that has been reviewed. Old outstanding checks, that can create a problem because sometimes you can look at bank reconciliations and see checks that have been outstanding for 3 or 4 years. Well, that's not right.
So you mean checks that we've written?
Yes, there's a good chance maybe they didn't end up to the person that they were intended to go to, or maybe they cleared the bank, but the reconciliation process didn't clear them out of the system.
Okay.
But then Washington State has the unclaimed property rules that organizations are supposed to forward those unclaimed amounts to the state. So, and the state publicizes a list that the public can review and see if they have any unclaimed property. And then, on occasion, someone from the board should come in and look at those bank reconciliations. So that's just dealing with cash.
Yep.
With accounts receivable, and you guys may need to help me on exactly what may be billed, but let's say Sky Valley College has something at the pool, and there's we got to determine what starts the invoice process. So, them making the reservation would be an indication to the executive director and the billing person that this service is going to happen. When they actually come, then the invoice needs to be generated that day or the next day. When the invoice is generated, it gets posted to revenue and to accounts receivable. Well, the executive director should review those invoices going out to make sure they're appropriate with the expectation of what was provided. And then on a monthly basis, the executive director should look at and I'm sorry about putting your name out there a lot, but
Go right ahead. I do a lot of, we do
Or
a lot of this
your
already,
position.
so yeah, we get it.
should review the aged accounts receivable listing and question the accounts that are getting old. And even someone from the board should ask for to review that aged receivable listing so that the board can question old accounts. Cash receipts coming in to be posted against AR or anything else should be reviewed by the executive director just to again, double check to see if things are appropriate. Because if there was some big group and generated $1,000 in admission or $10,000 in admissions, the executive director would know about that. And going through the cash receipts, they may not see that and they question, well, what happened to this group?
Right.
It's just providing some oversight. What we find a lot, though, is sometimes executive directors and even board members, they don't know exactly what to look for. And so that's how things can kind of slide by and not get noticed. Now, I'm not saying that there's been misappropriations or intent to deceive, but just errors or mistakes haven't been caught. And so there is policies and procedures that do need to be developed. We have access to manuals that will spell out general procedures for a lot of the different types of transactions that do occur within any kind of an organization. Say, deal with bank reconciliations, billings, and accounts receivable, accounts payable. With accounts payable, all the invoices that are paid, they need to be approved by the executive director before they're paid, and then the checks probably, I don't know if they're signed by you or by board members, but
By the county.
okay. And so I don't know the county if they require to see the invoices that are being paid or
They do.
yeah.
Yep.
So that's the county's control, that they're looking at invoices while they're signing checks to make sure that the disbursements are legitimate. So that's what the county does to control that process.
And Joanne and I both review those before those go out to them.
Yeah. And I'm saying this stuff, and they're maybe doing a lot of these things, and it may not be written, and in a lot of organizations it's not written, but it would be helpful to at least get some written policies and written procedures. That typically is a huge task and way down on the priority list for most organizations. What we could do is just provide a canned list of policies and procedures, and then they could be tailored, eventually tailored to the specifics of the pool.
Okay.
So,
That's really helpful. I think it just helps us ask better questions and have a better dialogue.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. I think there are a lot of things that are being done or are now being done that even just to understand, are we doing those things? And getting those two head nods that say, yeah, we're doing them.
We are.
Yeah.
And
A lot of
taking a look at them, that again, that helps complete the circle.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of where we get hung up
Mhm.
is because we're doing a lot of it, but our predecessors did not do a lot of it. And I think that we get hung up a lot on on that, where we're trying to find where something went 6, 7, 8 months ago when sometimes it seems like, all right, we got to just get back on today.
Well, and even like trying to put the numbers together and, what did you spend on this last year? Well, you can't look down this column and know that this is what we spent because things were coded wrong and entered incorrectly. So that makes these numbers not necessarily a true reflection.
And for an accountant, for any accountant, that is really hard. Because you want to provide reports that you have faith in and that you can say, yeah, this is what we paid for something. But when you have that uncertainty about the posting and inconsistent posting, it's really hard to have faith in those numbers and to say with confidence this is what it cost. And at some point, and again, this is hard for accountants to step back from trying to figure out why something happened. But at some point, you just got to let it be water under the bridge and just look forward, because it could just burn up a huge amount of time and resources trying to figure it out. Now, you have the public to answer for, and that you may have to dedicate some more time to figure out what happened. But at some point, it just might be so cost prohibitive that it's not.
Or just determine what our opportunity cost really is.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we do have, and Ron, you just said it, one thing that hearing all this, unfortunately the past does matter to a certain extent. We do need to reconcile, find out where we're at, find out how to go forward. But for us as the board, the past matters because we have a duty to the taxpayer, and that would be self-reporting to the state auditor, all right, which we are going to have to do. All right, we're going to have to contact Troy's office at the state auditor and say, look, last year our books are in disarray. We are in the process of reconciling, and we are in the process, actually today we're going to hopefully come away with a vote on a revised budget for this year that we submit to Sheila. So we'll have to self-report to the county and to the state that last year was in such disarray. What I'm hearing is we definitely need to report. If we've got stuff we don't know where it's at or in different accounts, we need to do this sooner rather than later.
We have actually, and what you guys have is this sheet here. We have been going through the last week or so.
This sheet here is titled what?
Expenses.
Okay.
And we have worked on taking the actual paid out in 14, so finding even the things that were miscoded, and finding just by going through with invoices and with receivables, and find out both what was paid out and what had come in. And we have, and of course it's not going to match some of the things that you guys have on your 2014 budget for this received in 2014 and spent in 2014, because some of those were miscoded, and we've had to chase them down out of completely different sections. So you have received here and expenses on this one.
Got it. Now I'm tracking. Thank you.
So what you guys have in your 2014 expense budget, which says we spent X amount of money on, let's say pest control, it might not be what we really spent on pest control, and we've been trying to track down what, just by using our receipts and everything else from when we paid those bills, to track down what our actual expenses were.
And somewhere on this expense list, is there the pot of money that we haven't been able to figure out what it was, that money that went out the door but we're not exactly sure what it went for? Or is this just the
There's a
things
lot of
we
that.
identified?
A lot of that has been able to. We have been able to find where some of that has gone, and it didn't always go to one spot. There may have been, for example, $3,000. Part of it went one place, and part of it went another place. And we're pulling the invoices that have been paid, and finding out what did we pay for this in 2014.
I don't see a big other thing. That's why my question is, do we know what we spent last year total? And after you subtract all this, is there's big other, or we aren't exactly sure? That's
Shouldn't we?
my question. Makes sense.
I'm really confused because I feel like that's saying that I think we know what went out the door.
We do know what
we're
went out
trying
the door.
to move things from one pile to another pile.
No, and I understand that. I'm
Okay.
just on
We
this.
know what went out the door. We don't always know what it went out the door for.
Understood.
And
Yeah.
that is what we're trying to break down. We didn't have a ton of time to get this completed, but we brought what we had.
But if it's not this represents what was spent, for example, however, some of it may be in the wrong bucket, if you will.
I'm hoping a lot of this,
Hopefully, and that's what you're trying to fix.
there is some that is left over after this. We don't know the exact amount. Like I said, we were working on this 12 hours a day for the last week and a half, trying to just figure out where this money went. Because we would look at the 2014 budget and say, well, we spent, this amount on something, and we look at our invoices and say, no, we didn't. We actually spent more, or no, we spent less. We don't know why this was put into this pile.
Into that category. So,
Yeah.
so on the expense list on this one, it looks like you're doing this in Excel. Are you doing changing the posting within the accounting system, or just keeping track of it?
No, I'm just
outside?
keeping track of it outside. In fact, I asked if not even to add anything up. I just wanted to enter stuff for now so I can see what we're looking at. And that's why we have what we took from your guys' 2015 budget, and I asked Alan McDougall to email me over anything extra that he had. And so what we've taken from that, it was very confusing. That was your first category. And then we have suggested, and the suggested that we are putting forth here in that second column is basically what we have looked at spending, what we have spent in 2014, and what we're looking at we may go forward and spend this year. And some of it is substantially higher than what was budgeted, and some of it is substantially lower. And for example,
Well, can I stop us for a second?
Go ahead.
What's our process? Because I feel like we're kind of
We're starting that.
we're hitting things. We're kind of swatting flies here, and I'm not trying to do a disservice. I'm actually trying to make sure that we end up where we think we're ending up. So what's our process? And I'm not sure who I'm asking that question of.
Can I interject one thing that I think aligns with that? I think the really critical thing for you to remember is that you have high-level oversight. So like when it comes to those write-offs, the board needs to establish a policy by which they make decisions about how to write things off and when they can write them off. And
Right.
when to do it.
Right.
And after that, it's incumbent upon them to set up a process for making it happen. But you don't need to understand you need to write off $5 here and $7 there. But they need to know, okay, this is $350. Do we have to bring it to you, or is it whatever it is?
Whatever the
Process,
policy
you write
is.
The policy.
Right.
And then when it comes to you, so I think that just general understanding is really important in all of this. Is that you need to know the details, but you've got to have that high level. That's your job.
Right, and that really applies to all the policies that would be over the accounting function within the district. The board has to basically approve the policies and understand the policies, and then within each policy there's got to be thresholds. What needs to come to the board before action is taken, what doesn't need to come to the board. So that takes us back to the policies and procedure discussion. So I think Erica, what you were trying to describe was that you've kind of reevaluated some of the expense categories and maybe moved some of them around from what's printed out from the accounting system.
defined some of them.
Yeah, and then they've developed
That's a work in progress.
suggested budget amounts in those line items for moving forward. So this Excel report, it would be, you may have a little more faith in the 2014 spent column versus what's in the accounting system.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Which is what we use this to put that together.
yeah, but from what your discussion, it sounds like you've worked to maybe clean up some of the expense categories.
You know how much I hate others?
Yeah. It shouldn't have very minimal other.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so this Excel spreadsheet, it sounds like may have a little more cleanup done for some of the expense categories, which is fine. I would recommend that if you do just have some of those changes or recategorizations, that those actually do get reflected in the accounting system too. So then from that cleanup, you've developed suggested numbers for 2015. So that might be the process that she's gone through to get to these 2015 numbers.
And I think what I'm probably going to be really difficult, and I
We're used
because
to it. It's okay.
well, I don't actually think that was necessary, but and I'm sorry, but I just need to feel the need to say that I'm struggling right now because I don't understand the process that we're trying to use to come to an agreement today, and I am not trying to be difficult. I am really trying to be pragmatic about this and say what. I have a bunch of papers in front of me. This is no disservice to anyone. I've never seen any of them before. Yes, some of them look similar to things I've seen before. But what I'm trying to figure out is we are here, and I have a bunch of papers in front of me, and what we're trying to get to, I believe, is a revised budget that we can live with. And I am not, sorry, this is back to my consulting days, I am not seeing the path to done. Which basically means this is this document, we're going to review this, and we expect you to this, or these things I'm going to tell you about, and I'm not being helpful in terms of being solution-oriented right now, because I'm trying to figure it out.
Can I? Yeah?
Please do.
Thank you.
Please do.
No, that's good. I just, I think what we need to know is where we're at with reconciliation, where we stand with what our P&L currently is, and where we stand with what your expenses are for going forward, and the changes that you need us to make for a budget that we approve that is submitted to the county, because that's what we're here for today. We need to look at where we're at and where we need to go for the remainder of this year. So that's what we need. So, reconciliation, where are we at? Without getting into the nitty-gritty.
Petty cash is reconciled.
Okay?
till January. The only thing that's not done is March for Whidbey Island Bank, petty cash, our credit card statements. Everything is reconciled. All
Okay.
throughout 14 and part of 15.
So petty cash is reconciled.
Till January, because I don't
Okay.
have...
Through
I don't
January
have
15th.
Through January.
Of 15
2015,
Yeah.
because I don't have the statements for petty cash yet
for February.
for February,
Okay.
So where do they come from?
the bank.
Why don't we have... Okay. Can we look at that? We don't need to discuss it today. We just need to look at that.
They have been
Okay.
they have been requested.
Cool. What else has been reconciled, and where do we stand on the rest of the M&L?
Evanella
No,
is reconciled until February
M&O,
Of this year.
of this
yeah, M&O is reconciled through February 2015.
Okay.
Bank, Whidbey Island Bank, or Heritage Bank?
Well, not with the Island Bank, because she's, for March, I just finished 2015 on
14
February the other day.
14 is done.
All of 2014 is done.
January and February of 15 are done.
Okay.
For Whidbey Island Bank.
Yes, that is the bank that we take our deposits
Right.
to daily.
Trying to clarify.
What, without getting in, once again, without getting into the granularity, which is a big word for me right now. I'm sorry. When do we expect to be finished with reconciliation?
When she's done with quick.
Julie?
I don't know how many clock hours I have this week,
Okay. Nice.
so it'll be finished this week if I do.
Okay. And then there's an honest and fiscally responsible answer. So
Yeah, otherwise
either this
it'll
week
be
or next
Sunday
week.
or Monday, I'll finish up.
Okay. So sometime this month we can say we will be reconciled.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
Before the next meeting is what it sounds like.
Yeah, end of this week, beginning of next week, we should have that completed.
All right.
Can I ask a question? What do you mean when she's done with QuickBooks? What is that?
When she's done entering the daily,
Okay. The daily
It
sales.
got a little bit behind in doing some other stuff to prepare for this meeting and some other commitments we have going on
Okay.
with the facilities.
We've had kind of a rough week over there.
All right. So by next meeting we'll be reconciled and we'll know where we stand.
throughout March.
So, yeah, we'll be reconciled completely through March. April won't be done because we won't be finished with the month yet.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Full disclosure.
That's right.
So moving forward, what we have to look at in front of us then is what our actual budget was. If we look at expenses and revenues together, You have 2014, our revenue, and what we received.
Can I ask one question real quick, Sean?
Yes, sir.
About that reconciliation. So do you guys feel comfortable moving forward that, that you'll be able to continue on your own to be able to consistently reconcile the budget? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
So you feel that you've kind of been assisted?
We may need to poke it around once in a while,
Okay,
and
good.
Yeah, I don't know if they're not really talking about reconciling to the budget. They're talking about reconciling to bank accounts.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, sir.
and we're able to do those without help.
Okay.
When it comes down into some of the more nitty-gritty bits
Yeah, no,
and
no.
pieces, that's when
Okay.
we start yelling at Ron, help.
But isn't the fact too, I think part of it is they were trying to figure out again, there was this squishy
Oh, I
state of account.
understand, yeah.
Right, but then moving forward, whereas it's clean transaction,
Yeah.
it's a matter, hopefully, yes, there will be, I'm sure, a little bit, but hopefully it's really a matter of just like your bank statement, right?
Thank you.
And a lot of this is going to be recoding to help it slide into the right spot to clean it up so that
So we
it's...
can know what we're actually spending.
Yes!
Well, and one of the things that was just a real classic example of things just kind of going the wrong place for me.
Okay. Julie, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off. Because we're going to start wormhole. Okay? I want to stick. We're going to...
Yeah.
We're getting reconciliation done. We appreciate, I think the board entirely appreciates all the work you're doing with Ron.
Absolutely.
So let's move on with the revenue and the expenses. And I hate to say this, but I actually like the Excel, just because I use it, format better than the P&L.
It's easier for me
It's
to read.
easier for me to read because the numbers are bigger. Shut up. And so, and actually there's lines. So it's actually, when you look at it, there's some flow to the document. So before we move on with our revenue and what we actually received in our budget from 2014 and then looking at 2015, this mirrors the P&L, right?
Pretty well.
Pretty well.
Yeah, we use the P&L to put that together
Okay.
As a beginning framework.
as a beginning framework.
Okay.
Yes. And what we have found is, because there were some things, when we pulled some of the receipts after we had made a payment, we pulled some of the receipts. What we had spent in the P&L did not necessarily match what we had spent for a company.
Okay.
And so what we have done is, if we spent $300 more than the P&L has, we've reflected that there
Okay.
on what we have spent. So you're going to find that it does differ some, because we have tried to correct what we actually paid versus what is on the P&L.
Okay. So there were some mistakes made on the P&L and they've been corrected on the Excel.
Yes, and this is a work in progress still.
Okay.
And so, but this is a work in progress that will eventually result in restatement of the P&L.
That is the plan, yes.
Okay.
Do we have do we have a Q1 P&L?
First quarter.
2015.
Yeah,
Because I think I thought we were using that as a basis.
we did.
The one that's actually printed out through today.
Through today,
January
yeah.
1st to April.
So expenses should be
Oh, yeah,
reflected
right here.
pretty accurately. Revenue is not. Revenue's through the middle of March.
No, it is not. It is not.
So Julie, when you say revenue is maybe
Here you go, Steve.
updated through the middle of March, that goes back to
Yes.
like getting done with QuickBooks. And so,
Okay. I got one.
Okay.
And here's why I asked for that. Just
First quarter.
to have for me, it's the understanding of where are we on our, where are we to date on our expected budget. So we should be, all things being equal, and yes, I know that's not always the case, we should be, if it were a Q1 cutoff, we should be at approximately 25% of those expenses, understanding that there are some things spike and understanding the variations. That was, I think, where I thought we were going with this. But if the conversation, if you want to lead it in a different direction, that's fine. And
It
I
is.
understand that.
And what you'll see here in the second column is what the 2015 budget reflected when it was approved at the end of 2014, and what we have done to date here.
Correct.
And that should be reflected here as well on this Excel, because for me, Excel is easier to read.
So let's show me that line again.
So if you have see for general admissions, you have $100,000, and then over here it says general admission, 100,000
On the revenue one.
on the revenue one.
All right.
At the top.
Yep, there it is. Okay, I'm tracking now. Thank you. Len, did you say?
Just one real quick thing. I think it's really important as you think about this policy things for somebody to do a really careful review of the resolutions. Because what's happened over the years is a lot of times an issue arises and a new resolution gets created or not adhered to, and there are other resolutions. So as you create these policies and impose them as resolutions, you need to know if you're replacing something else, and you need to be able to say, this replaces that, so you don't have two conflicting resolutions that are both active. And we have a lot of that going on already. And so some of these things are that. The document I gave you that has those RCWs, that is from the Parks and Recreation chapter. So those are actually the RCWs about budgeting and expenditures that apply to Parks and Recreation districts. And I think the sort of high-level understanding to apply to that is to remember that while the director brings you a budget, the budget really is a mission and priority statement of the board. So when you approve a budget, it's got to be your budget. You approve that, and then you have to do what the law says in terms of administering it. But it becomes your budget, not the director's budget, once you approve that. So it's important to remember that that's what the budget is that it's a reflection of your mission and priorities.
So, moving on with the budget, the P&L for the first quarter's here. It's shown in our 2015 revenue, correct? And it's also shown in the 2015 budget, and the way I look at the expenses is the suggested is next to what is we actually budgeted prior in the budget that was submitted to the county,
I
correct?
broke this down a little bit more
Yes.
because some things were lumped together, so you'll see some blank things there, but
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we need to look at then is the suggested 2015 budget, how it's reflected for what we actually spent and budgeted for 2014, which is the two columns right next to it, and then what our revenues were in 2015. Any suggestion on the way forward from you and Ron on how you move this?
Well, I guess, in developing a budget for 2015, it was my understanding the initial budget may not have had a lot of the analysis or thought that went into it. So it was my understanding you were going to work on a revised budget for 2015. So relying on 2014 actual numbers is really what you have to start with. Like on this expenses, the executive director line, that first line, she's identified what was spent in 2014, what the budget was suggested for 2015. Well, we know what the executive director's salary is, and if she's going to be in that position the whole year, that's a pretty easy line item to budget, to figure out what that number is. And you can apply that to some of the other consistent salary categories. With regards to salary categories that may be variable, you're going to have to go back to your expectations of programs. What are you going to offer for 2015, and what kind of staff is going to be needed? And
we did that.
Yeah.
So can we review? I'm sorry to interrupt, Ron.
Oh, that's right.
Can we review then? Let's start with reviewing what we have for M&O, or salaries and wages, on this expense pages for 2015. Why did you make the suggestions you made in the suggested 2015?
Mhm.
All right.
We'll just start with the director. I looked at what you guys had budgeted.
Is that okay with you, Ron?
Oh, yeah.
Had what you guys had budgeted for 2015, and I believe that was with, when you guys budgeted this amount, it was with the hope that you would have had a permanent director in place that would have been collecting the salary and the benefits leading up to that 58,908. What you guys did spend in 2014 was the 30,000. The 44,000 comes from the fact that I know what you guys are paying me, and I know pretty much how long I'm going to be doing this, whether this be a temporary or a, for the temporary, when you guys look to hire permanently in the next couple of months or so. I added up what we were paying myself, and then what we would pay somebody who would come in permanently would obviously probably be at a higher rate than what I'm being currently paid at, and if not, they would be at a similar rate, and I went with that. Seeing as right now I am being paid less than that 58,000, that's where I got that one from, and just taking what I've been making and making that suggestion there. I did the same with the rest of these. There are some of them that, for example, I'm going to go down to the lifeguard. $92,000 is what the commission board had voted in for 2015. I actually broke it down so we would have both the lifeguard and the senior lifeguard. They do make different rates because the senior lifeguard is essentially a shift supervisor. And because of those different rates, I made the suggestion based on what we had paid in 2014, what our budget was in 2014, and went looking at our programs, what we do for hours, what we have for shifts, and made those recommendations based on what the average of the senior lifeguards and the lifeguards are paid versus the shifts, the hours that are in the shifts that we offer. But I did break those down separately because I did want to see where that budget is for the two positions.
A senior lifeguard is one person? Or
A senior lifeguard is a collection of several.
Okay.
It's a shift supervisor, but they all get paid a similar wage, which is a little higher than what our regular lifeguards pay because of the responsibility involved. You know, you have one in your bag over there next to you.
Is this?
That's yours, yeah.
Oh,
That's our budget survival bag.
oh, I didn't know that.
The bad.
Gosh. I'm sorry.
I'm going to interrupt.
Tell me on button. But can he fix
Professional.
transgenders? Oh, heck no.
He's a
There you
professional.
go.
Go ahead.
Do the lifeguards and the senior, I mean, is there, senior lifeguards all get this amount per hour, or is it on a scale?
It's pretty much standard. It might vary 25 to 50 cents an hour depending on experience. A brand new senior lifeguard who I've just promoted will start out a little lower than the ones that have been there for a year or two.
That makes sense, okay.
Yep. So that's basically how a lot of this was developed, looking at what was spent in 2014, looking at what was offered for hours versus what was budgeted for 2015.
Okay.
That's a short answer.
I have to ask,
Go for it.
and I feel horrible asking this because I don't remember. What does WSIT and LGIT, I know I'm going to remember as soon as you tell me.
It's water safety instructor trainer and lifeguard instructor trainer, and the reason that I budgeted zero for those is two reasons. First of all, I am the only person in the facility with those certifications to teach those classes. It would be covered by salary. In order for us to have anybody else, that certification takes anywhere between 8 months and 18 months to complete. So by the time that even if we started a class tomorrow, another IT would not be in place until the end of the year anyway.
Okay.
And since I'm covered by salary, there's no reason to budget for it.
Okay. Thank you. I also noticed that you put in $3,000 for the running coach. Is that what we've paid out year to date?
Now, if you look, not year to date right now. I talked to Brad yesterday. He has nine kids that are active in running club. He's been volunteering his time to build that club up. And so this was what we had spent in 2014 was $2,564.13. The budget was substantially higher than that, and I just went slightly above what we had done in 2014 because wages have gone up some.
How many months did we pay for that in 2014? Do you
I
remember?
want to say that was 4 or 5.
And so this is $3,000 is projected on us paying Brad how many months this year?
Probably essentially the same. We may look at making that program only a spring-summer program. And the other thing
So
with,
you'd start in,
he started in March.
okay,
And we have gone down from 2 running coaches to 1 running coach.
okay. Currently he's volunteering, but if we started the program up again at our next meeting and we decided to add this in the budget, what months are we looking at?
Probably March through August.
Why would we want to do it in March? And the only reason I say this is because March is gone. April, by the time we vote on this, is going to be
We
gone.
could do April through, or we can
We could
I would look at June.
I was
we
going to
can go
say
through September, October.
School
June through
now,
August.
Baseball, soccer kind of coming to
June, July, and August.
I know he has been recruiting very heavily in February and March and volunteered his time for all of that.
Has he come up with this plan that we've been talking about for months?
He has been asked to. He wasn't sure whether the program was even going to go forward.
Is he aware that that was what we requested? It's like, where's your plan, buddy?
Okay. So the 3,000 we could say is maybe iffy, if even in there. Okay, so it's something to look at. All right.
But you still have to have, if the board wants to provide that program, you still have to budget a salary if you're going to end up paying somebody.
Right.
Right.
So it may be hard to exactly nail down what that number is, but you're going to say, oh, we're going to run that program for 3 months, and we're going to pay this guy $10 an hour, and it's going to take this many hours.
And that's what you budget for.
Yeah,
Right.
you're going to have to.
I look at it as a soft item. It's got a bullseye on it.
Yeah.
Right now. As I go through my revised
but
budget right now,
it has
that's
to
what I'm saying.
support the program that you want to offer.
Mhm.
And then it's another issue to make him plan
Right.
the club
And actually, if we're going to require somebody to do work, we have to pay them for it. So,
That's what I told him yesterday. I said, we need to have you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I said, I need you clocking in just in case you get hurt, if nothing else.
well, there's a whole bunch of issues there that we
Yes.
don't need to deal with right now.
Yep.
So let's just look at the budget issue. So,
Can I just interject some real quick on that specific issue? I think we've kind of run into this issue before. I think the board needs to say, this is what we would want this club to do.
right,
Give us a plan of how you reach that target.
which I would like to do at the next meeting.
But
I agree.
He needs that clarification.
Yep.
It's not come and sell yourself.
Right.
It's,
I got it.
I think we got it, yeah.
So, let's go down this real quick. You added one thing I noticed, you added the team admin to the head cashier. So you took the 4,500 that was down there and you added it to the head cashier and WAC admin, because this is how Julie and Joanne are currently.
It was actually originally 5,500. No, never mind. Yeah, that was just me talking to myself. I added those two together because that's what we have been
Which
doing.
two?
The head cashier and the team admin.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I've put them, it's the 4th line down. It says head cashier and NWAC admin. I put those, and I added those two together and suggested a salary based on what we paid out in 2014 for both positions.
Salary or wages?
Wages, I'm sorry.
It's okay, I just want to make sure.
Thank you.
Can I just make one recommendation? I honestly don't like seeing NWAC admin thrown in there. Admin, period. The reason is, I think, because when somebody looks at this and they dissect it, they begin to add up all the NWAC dollars. And then I think NWAC becomes a target.
Right, we don't
Like,
have
oh my
a
God,
admin.
NWAC also costs $25,000.
So we can just
there.
put it head cash / admin.
That's what I think.
There we go.
Because I don't want to see NWAC be a target to
No, I agree.
that thing. So, I mean, we know what she's doing. You know what I mean. Thank you.
Easily done.
And so, then we have,
I also combined the assistant and deck coach positions together. I
there you go.
don't know that Coach and I had a small conversation about it, and this has come from 2 coaches now. They considered all of their coaches assistant coaches. And he says maybe they're paid a little bit differently. You can give one person more responsibility than the other. That's up to the coach's decision. But there's really no reason to pay out 2 different positions when they're essentially doing exactly the same thing, and that is assisting him with the team. So we took those 2 positions. I'm suggesting that we combine them into just an assistant coach. It just says assistant coach position, and coach can decide how many. And
Since we're talking about this, and we're talking about the budget.
Yep.
He has been doing a lot on his own right now.
he's been doing very well
On
doing a
his
lot
own.
on his own. Yes. He has had a couple days a week. Molly Burdell has been coming in and helping for an hour or so. So she's probably working 2 to 3 hours helping him a week. And that is one of the reasons that you see a lower suggested 2015 budget for the assistant coaches. 'Cause
Okay,
I
and we'll
believe
just cover the rest of the year. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I got you.
I am suggesting that this should cover the rest of the year.
Okay, that was my question. Well, let's cover the rest of the year.
That's my suggestion that it does. That
Okay.
coach makes that work.
So we have, according to the P&L, we have $0 budgeted for a head coach or any other coaches.
Correct, and that's why I put in there a contract, because you guys did write a contract with Coach the end of 14, beginning of 15, for $47,000. It was not reflected in your 2015 budget. However, it may have been reflected under the one that just said coaching, and it was $65,000, I believe.
Okay, well that, I mean,
Yeah,
that
so,
would be,
so that's in there. And I think that that was intended to not only cover the head coach's salary, but to cover the assistant coach's salary as well. So I took that $47,000 and subtracted it from the suggested 2015, and then took the remainder as allotted. I
okay,
would
but why are, I think what I'm struggling with here is looking at a P&L that has $0 budgeted, but we're saying that we have money under coaching, which I think we could logically say, I'm trying not to get caught up in certain, we could logically say, well, of course that applies to the coaching position.
Mhm.
Is that money reflected on here somewhere?
on the 2015,
Correct. 'Cause, this is where I'm struggling a little bit. I understand that we're using a different document for today, but it all has to reference back to the document of record, and this is our actual document of record.
400401. It's on page 4. And this tells you what we've paid out so far for the head coach.
No. Yes, I understand that. What I'm saying is the budget says $0.
Oh, your 2015 budget says $0.
And this is where I'm struggling is I don't see this reflected in here.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what, so for me, this is the thumb, right, for my
Okay.
insidious painting, where I kind of go, how are we doing? And I know we have lots of other documents, but again, this is our document of record.
Yes.
And all other things are subordinate to it and need to roll into it. And so I don't know whether we're just catching up to it or, okay. Because that's where this is what I go back to every single time. As much as I also hate it, but this is what I'm going to go back to every time. Because this is the ground for me, right? This is the ruler. And so that's where I'm struggling to figure out why we don't have values in here.
Because on this budget, they had NWEC expenses lumped here, like in one chunk. So when it's entered into this, if you look on the first page under swim team, you'll see that the budget amount was $83,809. It's all lumped right there.
Wait, which page?
Of
Page
the
one.
Page 1.
2015.
Remember item
Well,
40?
that's revenue.
Well, that's how it lumped in because of the way it was done here. This is part of that whole putting it into the QuickBooks format for the
But
budget.
these are expenses.
Yeah, where are the expenses for NWAC?
So is that the $92,000 for lifeguard? No, that doesn't make
No,
sense.
that's aquatics.
Okay.
It's the $65,000 for,
This was one of the coding issues with QuickBooks.
Okay,
That's
so
why
we're
it's
But where
not-
is it? Where is it on here?
Okay, so we're going to fix this by this coming,
Yes, I can fix it. but
we're going to
that's
fix
why
this
it's
by
not-
this next meeting.
Okay.
That's why it's not reflected accurately.
Okay.
now.
So, in your spare hours between now and next Thursday.
So this QuickBooks document reflects the original budget that was created, and it just didn't have all the line items.
It doesn't though.
Yeah.
I think it can't.
Well, no, that's what they're working on is if you're going to have these expense categories as specific as you do, you need to have budget amounts as well.
I understand.
And so
Absolutely understand.
the original budget, they didn't have enough detail to split out to the categories. So that's why there's not, in this QuickBooks document, there isn't budget numbers in there. And their suggested numbers that is up for discussion today aren't reflected in here yet.
And while I understand that, the difficult part is, here's my take on what happened for me personally with last year's budget. Was here's this thing. There were a couple different meetings. Everybody talked about it. Oh, it looks good. Okay. I'm new here. Oh, it looks good. Okay. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yes. I'm not going to be the. And then it was, well, we didn't really know this, and we didn't really know this detail, and we're trying to get to this. And so for now, so it was a document that kind of stood by itself, right? And so my concern right now, and what I'm trying to do is try to tie these documents and your projected changes back to our revenues, for example. So while I actually have so much faith in you, and I hope you know that. I have faith in you guys too. But at the end of the day, the numbers have to add up, and if I can't see that, then I'm not going to be comfortable because I feel like I trusted the last time, and I think a lot of us did, but nonetheless, and so now I'm like, okay, trust but verify. Did that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm struggling with.
Yeah. So my suggestion is what we look at today, because I think we need to put the framework down today that we vote on next week, because I don't think any of the four of us, the three of you, because you can't tie, vote on today. What we come up with is a framework that we put. We use this as the framework to put, as Commissioner Shingleton said, into the P&L. Mm-hmm. And then next Thursday, we look at the framework on the actual P&L. Mm-hmm. Because, as you said, this is the reportable document, and that's what we will vote on next Thursday. Mm-hmm. Does that work? Okay, because that's what we want to see, and we failed to do that last time. Mm-hmm. We came up with the overriding principles, mm-hmm. and then we failed to look at it in the one recordable document that we have to use, and that's where we fell short. And what Wendy's trying to stop is from us repeating the same mistakes. We don't want to repeat, so we want to move forward.
I understand.
And so what we're looking at, so we're all on the same page, is we're going to look at the line items here in the expenses and revenue. We're going to take that back today and move it to the P&L for next Thursday's regular scheduled meeting with an agenda item to be the budget, mm-hmm. and we will look at it in the actual P&L statement. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, that being said, I've had 2 cups of coffee, and we've been at this for an hour. My little itty-bitty brain, well, it may be better than my child's, who does her phone all the time in the last 5 minutes. We need to take a 5-minute break. So we're going to take a 5 to 10-minute recess for everybody. All right. Thank you. So we recess at 10:05. Discussion probably should be recorded going on.
Okay, because mine's
You
ready.
mean the,
Okay, are we back to order?
I will in just a second. There's enough discussion going on that we need to make sure we're... Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order at 10:11.
Well, the question I had to do with NWAC and whether we wanted to talk about some of this, like when you look at the suggested salaries for deck coaches, and how do you tie that back to numbers, and when do we go down that road and look at that? And I know that what Sean had said, well, that was one of the things that we were asking you and the coach to put together. At the same time, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I think that that's something we need to decide. Where are those benchmarks? Where are the numbers when we say we're turning on another coach? You know, I don't think that is for the coach to decide when we provide that other coach. I think that's us. We need to really be...
I think it kind of goes back to what I said earlier, that we need to set the expectation for the program.
Okay.
That way the program knows what level to perform at.
So when will we be doing that, is my question.
Coach and I have had a couple of discussions about how many coaches he really needs on deck.
Okay.
And
And I'm going to ask a question here.
go right ahead.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. But I know we have to have a certain number of lifeguards on deck per the swim. It's totally different when we come to swim team?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. That answered my question. I got to ask.
Boom.
Yeah.
And
That's-
the coach needs to be either lifeguard certified or safety training for
Yeah,
swim
that's
coach
why Neil was
certified.
allowed to.
Right.
He would
That's
do that.
and I remember that, but I wanted to hear it to make sure I was on the right page.
And basically what the health department says is that it is up to the facility. That is only their recommendation.
Yeah, that's where I seen an email today where they had recommended two
Two.
when it was busy to have a third one floating around, but it was recommendation.
Yeah, and it is a conversation that I have had and a policy that I have reviewed, well, not a policy, but a procedure, I guess, I have reviewed with Annetta from the health department several times and have tried taking a guard off, adding a guard on, and following what they've recommended. And with the swim team, it's a little bit different just because we are not using the hot tub and the sauna, which is part of the
They
reason.
use the one pool, so you don't
They
have
use
to
the one pool. Yep, and that was really one of the recommendations from the health department was that the sauna and the hot tub provide a blind spot, which can be difficult to see.
So that's what the recommendation from the health department.
Like I said, I didn't want to go down that road, but it's really hard for me to look at like deck coaches and all that and approve a budget when I don't know that we have a clear, defined, I think, mission for NWAC. And, I do like the one thing that Lynn had said in an email here recently, and that had to do with NWAC. We need to sit down and say, okay, here's what we want NWAC to be, and here's all of the particulars around it, and we're going to support it hell or high water. None of this, well, we said here we supported it, but now over here it's always
But
been
that,
with
and
that boy.
I'm going to,
Yeah.
may I?
Yes, you may, please.
All right, thank you, sir.
Stop me.
I was going to say, we're doing that with the program review, and I think that's something we definitely need to continue, and I think, no, don't put the clips on it. I think that's something, the discussion that definitely needs to happen when we do the program review. The relevancy to the budget is the
Yes.
deck coaches and the
Yes,
head
it is.
coach,
Yes. that
which is what you were getting at.
Yes, sir.
And you've already had to answer Commissioner Hoffmeyer's concerns. You've had that discussion with the coach. The way forward with the coach is...
Basically, I have asked Coach to evaluate very seriously how much he really can handle on his own with the current amount of swimmers that are in the water versus when he would actually need help.
And what is that level going to be?
And he's basically said that the times that he really needs help is when he's got the younger groups in there. I get that
Mhm.
because they're everywhere. And I think that as he moves forward, he said, once the team begins to build up and he's been adding a few, he would reevaluate this. We need to try and do as many groups as you can on your own. So we got to cut.
Okay, so long course, and this is for the rest of the board's purview also, as we look at the budget. This is all related to the budget. Long course starts now and goes through the summer. Long course typically has less kids involved than short course because it's the summer. All right, short course will start up again in the fall.
September.
So, if we put the budget in place now for the rest of the year, will it be sufficient for the transition from long course to short course with the projected
16,000.
16,000 for deck coaches or assistant
I
coaches?
believe so, and I think it needs to be.
Okay. Is the board comfortable with that as we look at those numbers?
I guess for me, I'd like to know how we got to that $16,000.
Sure.
I mean, is that one deck coach? I know you mentioned Molly.
I basically took the highest that the coaches were paid, and then I looked at how many hours there had been an assistant coach on deck, and I took into consideration the fact that we didn't have a coach for a couple of months last year, and that's why the assistant coaching budget went way over. And then I just decided at that point to look at how many hours, once we did have a coach, how many hours the assistant coaches were working, and then I just took that as a guideline. I also feel that after watching Coach Taylor, how well he is handling these groups on his own, and I went with the fact that we don't have one of our assistant coaches that is in right now. She's out for maternity leave, and how much he's using Molly. Just looking at those hours, and I just took that as a projection and went from there. And I feel that with the practice team set up the way they are, I don't know that if he really needs that assistant coach during the time when those younger groups are in. There's an hour to an hour, maybe 2 hours, 3 or 4 days a week. And that's where I went with that. And right now he's not using any assistant coaches because at all. I mean, Molly has been coming in, but she's on vacation right now. And
With spring break, it's an easy time to go down to
He's
just one
busy.
coach. Yes.
he's busy. He's got a lot of kids
Right.
in there right now.
So you feel that 16 is firm,
I think he needs to make it work.
okay? And it's still safe and it will support the program.
And I've also told him that if he doesn't feel like it is and he feels that there's a day that he needs help, he can come bang on the window.
And can
He
levy
can,
you.
He can help. I'll be more than happy to help him.
Okay.
They don't pay me any extra to do it either.
So how much does the deck coach get paid?
One of them is at $10 an hour or $11 an hour, and the other one is at $16. And I've also asked that he not use more than one at a time.
Okay. With the current numbers.
Yeah, unless he builds the team considerably to justify using more than one at a time.
So when I look at, I'm just hearing you, it sounds like you're talking about one coach.
Talking about one assistant, I'm
So,
asking him
So
to use
if
one
you're looking
assistant
at that,
coach at a time.
if that assistant was there, if that deck coach was there 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, right?
I said
$16
4 days a week.
Well, even if it was 6,
Mhm.
making $16 an hour for a year, that's just under $10,000. And
I-
that's to have one coach there, one deck coach there, 2 hours a day, 6 days a week for every day that we
I
practice.
also added in the time that he may need one of them to go to a swim meet. Sometimes there are two
Well,
swim
that's
meets
fair.
going on, and he goes one way and they go the other way.
Okay, that's fair.
And I also added in a small amount of administrative time for planning the
Okay.
practices.
And now I have a question.
Yes.
What does, and I hate to ask this, but what does our resolutions and our bylaws say that we're supposed to put out towards NWAC? Does anybody know? I don't think there's anything required off the top of my head, but I think we need to check on that.
Mhm.
So if we look at the 16 now, we need to also look at that between now and next Thursday.
We have another critical thing here.
Yeah.
Whoever goes on that deputy coach must be a certified coach from USA Swimming.
Yes.
Right.
So if Erica's got that, great, but that insurance is the critical piece.
I have-
Yeah.
So you've got to have
We're-
her back on there.
Yep.
So it can't be just a bond.
I have it.
Thank you. I like how you pointed that out, Eric. I hadn't thought of the travel.
And they may be having to go to a meet. Sometimes, and I know last year there were 2 instances where the head coach had to attend one meet and he sent his assistant coaches to another meet, and it was the same weekend, and we just had qualifying kids that went to one and non-qualifying kids that
Thank
went
you
to
for
another.
pointing that out.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
you also have the need for an assistant coach to coach those that aren't going to a meet sometimes.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Any other questions on the suggested 2015 salaries and wages as we work through this?
I guess the tough part for me is that technically the number is actually going up from last year. And while I realize it's down from the budget for last year, well, no, it's not actually.
Should be down about 1,000 from the budget.
The original budget.
Mm-hmm. From the original budget, should be 1,000 under.
You're talking about the head coach?
Well, I'm talking about coaching, and not coaching, period. Actual 2014 was, let's see, what is that, 61, and the proposed budget is 63. I recognize that some of those hours were spent differently. I understand that. I think I'm just
Well, I think you have to recognize we were 5 months without a head coach being paid.
And I think that's what I was just
So I
referring
think
to.
that's,
I understand that, but I still think, I'm back to, to Steve's numbers a little bit, just because I'm trying to understand 60% over what that calculation was is, I mean, because that's effectively then a 60% more. I'm just trying to understand where that, what comprises that number. But we were asked if we had any more questions, and I'm still not
Yes.
reconciled with this, so I'm stating that.
Yeah, because that's basically, like you said, that would be thinking you're going to spend $6,000 on travel, basically. And is that what you're
An
saying?
additional time,
Yeah.
to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, because the calculation that you did, based on, and I don't know if those numbers are accurate, that the calculation that he did would actually already include, a 20% over what you said you'd figured out, but then the actual number is still 60% higher than that. And I think it's just trying to reconcile kind of what really comprises this number. So that, it's just, I have a level of discomfort there. I realize that when we're talking about the overall budget, this number is not huge. I get that. I'm just trying to ensure that we don't, if we're doing that everywhere, that we understand,
Yeah.
you know, that's going to add up.
And the problem is, I remember going over the budget with somebody last fall, and the income that supposedly gets generated was just made-up numbers of, this is what we think we're going to get, and in October, November, we weren't anywhere near that. And my guess is, we have no clue how much we're going to get income-wise from people walking in the door and saying, I want to go for a swim, or here's my annual fee. So the more we've got to pare these numbers down to the bone. So I kind of agree
Since we're
with-
talking about NWAC and the head coaches, real quick, I did not see on here any swim meets this year.
It's
Did I see? Oh, there it is. There's 2,000. And for this year, for the rest of this year, he's only got 5,000, or you only have 5,000 on here, so we're going to do one meet. That's about one meet.
That's all that we can, he was too late to get in for the spring meet, and
Okay.
so he is bidding for the fall.
He's bidding for the fall already, so
Yep.
he's already planning ahead.
Mhm.
So we'll have one meet in this year, which is about 5,000. Okay.
And I budgeted him about $2,500 to spend on it,
Okay.
on there, so that we would make, hopefully, more than 5,000. I was as conservative as I could be.
And Wendy, if we look at the dues, what did we base in this? This may help also. If we look at NWAC dues at 60,000.
I'm looking at the fact that the majority of his team are paying the lower dues,
Okay.
and not the higher dues,
Okay.
because they are his higher end paying team. The
Very few.
senior team, gold team and above, they are very few, whereas his Wigglefish 1 and 2 and his silver team are his bigger groups, but they pay less.
Okay.
However, he has given me a fee structure to raise dues all around.
And we'll look at that next
We'll
meeting.
look at that next month.
But the revenue that you have projected here is based on what we're currently charging,
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Real quick, remind me here with kayak instructor for Pete, we've got 3,000 in here on the budget. The suggested, right, is 3,000.
Oh, there it is. Yes.
Okay, and we've already budgeted 1,600 on there. Why did we go so high? Do you remember?
You budgeted 4,600.
That's what I said. I meant to say 46. So there's 1,600 more. I can't recall why we went so high.
I believe it was you added in his maintenance.
Oh,
Maintenance.
well, okay.
That's a
Okay.
possibility,
So,
but I broke that down into another line item.
okay, thank you.
I'd like to keep that separately
All
from
right,
his wages.
thank you.
And I actually put his wage up a little bit because I know of an additional kayaking class that he's working on scheduling that would be more than what he had last year. Would be one more than what he had last year. Okay.
So the difference in the maintenance supervisor, I mean, I know that the 44 is pretty close to what it was last year. Why did we have it at $38,000 on the budget? Do you know, Sean?
I can't remember.
Yeah. Is this
You know what?
overtime, the 44 to the 38?
I believe you guys had lumped in,
I mean, I feel very ignorant not knowing this.
and that was a really big question for me too, because I think that this is his agreed salary, the 2015, but I believe what may have been in there as well on the 2014 is they lumped in his assistants as well,
Okay.
all into one big pile,
Okay.
and they really need to be paid separately. So that's why we have the pool operator really should be the assistant, and that person does not, they're basically a backup for Matt. That's why that budget is very
So
small.
the 44 is
Matt.
Matt.
Okay.
And then, of course, what we spent in,
So what was the 38 then?
oh wait. I don't know. I think that this is what you guys had budgeted for Matt, and I'm not 100% sure why you did it that way.
Okay. Me neither, and that's where I feel ashamed, so just let you know.
Yeah, we budgeted 38.73. It is. We didn't budget a salary.
So let me
Yeah.
just
Oh,
make
please.
an
Please,
outside
please,
observation.
thank you.
So with this 2015 budget that was originally created, and you have some unsureness about it, and you feel unsure about it, I don't even think you need to even discuss it.
Thank you.
Why?
Okay.
You know, because
Thank you.
because Erica is coming to the table with numbers, suggested
Okay.
numbers for moving forward. It's hard if nobody has confidence in the original budget that was developed. Let's not try to figure out why
Thank
it's
you.
that way.
Thank
Let's
you.
figure out moving forward.
Thank you.
And while I agree with you, however, I think we have to use some historical basis. In this
Yeah.
case, we're saying that original 2015 budget doesn't serve as a good historical basis because it
Right.
doesn't measure for measure. But I think it's I think there's still a compared to what.
Well, and that's what she's done here is that with the 2014 spent and the 2014 budget, she's coming up with the 2015 suggested. So really the last three columns is what we would be focusing in on.
And for me, some of these things are a little too, lack of a better term, in a vacuum. So, for example, and I'm not picking on any one program, however, if I take between these two things, and I look at, for example, NWAC expected revenue, if I haven't missed anything, it's $69,500. Well, actually, that would be, $69,500. I don't think there's anything else in here. If I look at the expenses, it would actually be $76,500 plus medical plus retirement, neither of which I see on here. And so I'm trying to, for me, those are the things to at least make what I feel is an informed decision.
Oh, exactly. That's what you should be focusing on.
And it's really, so for me, what's really hard is I'm trying to be
Yeah, where is
present and mindful, but I'm also trying to jostle numbers to do the math myself, and that's what is maybe a little discombobulating, because I feel like I'm not being productive, but I feel like I need to do this.
Yeah, and with NWAC, do you want the program to be self-supporting, the revenues to support all the expenses?
Currently, that's not the way the program's set up.
Okay.
It isn't, but personally, when I'm looking at a number, I'd like to, so for example, when we talk about the $16,000 for and I'm not trying to just stay back on that point, I'm trying to use this as an illuminative example, is when we look at $16,000 for debt coaches and assistant coaches, I want to understand what's the overall impact, because otherwise I'm just looking at $16,000 and going, yeah, that number looks good to me. Relative to what? And so, and this might be only the way my scary brain works, but that's what I'm trying, that's a comparison I'm trying to make to see if I think that sounds like a big number or a little number. If that makes, hopefully that makes some kind of sense.
Yeah, I see that perspective, and you need to understand the full effect of having those assistant coaches and the payroll taxes and the benefits related to it.
And honestly, that medical and retirement is part of what brought us here, because it has been and was buried in admin or overhead. And it's not really overhead. I mean, we can call it, we can say it's employee overhead, but it's really not pool overhead, because it's not. If we define overhead as the things that are absolutely critical to the running and operation of a swimming pool, the head swim coach's retirement benefits, I do not feel fall under that category. And I'm not trying to argue.
No,
the point,
no,
I'm just saying that's part of what brought us here.
Yeah.
Is that doesn't make any sense, where do I see that? Because, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in looking at this, and I'm going to ask to kind of move forward with what Wendy's going at, is payroll and benefits is not in your suggested, payroll benefits are not in your suggested budget, or are they someplace else I'm just not seeing?
Yeah, there's nothing,
Or-
no numbers.
I had a hard time finding them in your 2015 and 14. So I left them blank and figured we'd discuss them.
And my understanding is, and this is where, again, this is what led us to the big question mark over our heads with a black cloud, with rain, et cetera, is that it was in the admin.
No, there's a whole 56, 20, 11 right under salaries and wages. Retirement, sick pay, vacation, all on subcategories, but there's no expenses listed.
Well, the sick pay and vacation pay are on the bottom of your first page here and the second page on the expenses. And then there's payroll benefits underneath payroll.
And medical is under personnel benefits.
And the medical is listed there on so medical is here on your first page, down at the bottom. It didn't make it into a white column because apparently I can't line up. And then I broke out sick pay, vacation pay, and then payroll benefits, what has been paid out.
Vacation pay and payroll taxes, okay. So, looking at yours, what I'm looking at is spent 2014. The historical data, what we put on the vacation for the head coach, for the aquatics director, and for the
Maintenance supervisor.
director and maintenance supervisor. So per contract, to move numbers over so I know what I'm talking about. Because the contract, easy, the director was contracted for 2,220.
2,220
Now, is that hours or is that,
dollars.
that's dollars per hour? Okay, so I can move that because looking at a budget, that's what I have to spend as per contract for the director, right? So I can move that 2,220 over into the suggested 2015.
But if you do that, then you're, if his contract was for $47,000 a year, I know you would essentially then offset that, wouldn't you? Because otherwise you're going to double count it. Because
Right.
either way, he's not making more than $47,000 in just salary.
For a
Correct?
salary,
You're getting
gotcha.
Additional
Gotcha.
expense.
So we don't need to move that over for the vacation pay. But what's the medical? We didn't break that down in sick pay. We don't have to worry about that either. So we just have to worry about medical, and that's total for all employees?
Yes.
So, and the retirement is already set also.
It's whatever we're matching is the maximum.
Yeah, that's already set as per contract.
And in 2015, we're not going to probably, I don't know, we may match the second half of the year.
Okay.
That's only for the director? Then,
It's for the head coach.
Did his
And
contract
that's
have
where I
retirement?
No, I couldn't find one.
Yes.
Yeah, it did.
It
I
did.
believe
It
it did.
It did.
It
So
did.
we need to reflect that in the budget. So we need to find out,
Yeah.
prior to next Thursday, we need to find out what the retirement as per the contract is for the head coach and what it was for the director. And we're not paying retirement for you. And that's all our salaried people. So,
I'm salaried and you're not paying retirement for me either.
okay. So that's what we need to budget for.
So right now, it's just the head coach that you would be doing retirement for, and whatever you contract.
But as Ron said earlier, the budget has to reflect what we expect to pay for 2015. So if we expect to hire a director, then we have to budget retirement for a director. So whatever we have left in the remainder of this year, we need to factor in that retirement. so that we budget for it correctly. So we don't fall into the same thing that we've done in the past. Correct? Okay. So if we can add those both for us to look at on Thursday, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Am I going down the right path here, Ron?
Okay, well, we're at the bottom of page 1 here is medical. And so, really, I feel like an outsider, and I don't know how much I should speak up, but, medical insurance is health care insurance for the employees. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. So you have a contract with United Healthcare, and it's X dollars per employee per month. And I don't know what the pool's policy or the district's policy, whether they pay 50% of the employee's premium or 100% of the employee's premium. Okay, so that's a really critical thing.
Yeah.
It's 50%. It is.
And that's what Matt,
For the employee and their significant other.
No, he was saying
we changed that last year when we had to vote on that as a board. We changed that last year?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank
so
you.
50% for the employee, and that the employee pays the 50% and the district pays the other 50%. And Matt, you're paying for your whole family?
Yes.
Okay.
My wife. Yes.
Okay, your wife then. So 100% for your dependents and 50% for yourself. So that means the district is paying 50% of the premiums for covered employees. So then what does it take to be qualified for the health care?
30 hours. Over 30 hours.
Of 30 hours a week?
Yes.
Okay.
Average of 30 hours a week.
Okay. So then how many employees work more than 30 hours a week?
I think it was 5.
Well, I don't know that it's still 5.
So she's on maternity leave, so that counts.
Yeah, well, I'm counting.
Yeah, okay.
It was Aaron.
Last 2014.
Yeah.
2015. It's Matt.
It's Matt.
The 4 of us.
But we don't take health care.
We don't take
But it does,
healthcare.
we have to budget for it, is what Ron's looking at.
The magic number is 30 hours a week, though.
Okay, but so 5 employees or 3 employees?
I think there are 5 that work over 30 hours a week, but I think we've got only 3 that are taking health insurance.
Okay, so 3 that are taking health insurance, and you think the policy premium was like $461 a month. So,
Well, I think this 33,000 number includes the employee contribution because we forward that to the insurance
okay,
on
so
their behalf.
so we don't need to bring that into the equation right now. I think it's so just doing some quick math. So the premium, if it is actually $461 a month, 50% of that is $230 times 3 times 12. I get $8,307. Now, you might want to just double check some of the actual premium numbers, but that would be to round it up, I'd say like $9,500 for medical insurance in case someone else gets over 30 hours. But again, it goes back to your expectations of programs. If you're going to have to be hiring more people that will be working more than 30 hours. In dealing with the employee component that's withheld, that shouldn't really be a budget item. It's not an expense to the district. That should be a wash.
It should be a wash, but I'm sorry, but it should be a wash, but then we should see revenue from that somewhere
Well,
on here, should we not?
No, you shouldn't see. You can't recognize revenue off of withholding from an employee. It's basically, it should be a balance sheet account that has to be reconciled. The withholding goes into it, and the payment for the employee's share of the premium goes out of it, and then the employer's portion of the premium hits the expense side.
Okay.
So there's some accounting that has to happen there, but you shouldn't. You're only budgeting what the district is actually paying towards the employee's medical insurance.
Okay, but and so the hard part I am having with this then is We spent $37,000 on this last year.
Well, and that, it is a little disturbing to see that.
Thank you.
Because if the premiums, they haven't gone down, and so if on this actual numbers for 2014, it's 37,000, was the amount withheld from the employee's pay? Was it properly credited to this expense account? Probably not. So this is the gross premiums paid out, but that wasn't really the bottom line expense to the district. The employees paid a portion of that. Where that ended up,
Given the numbers that you said, though, I think that's so. I think there's that disparity that you just mentioned. But given the numbers that you just rolled up, I think you came up with something under $10,000. That's it.
That's not what we looked at and voted on. Because when we voted on this, go ahead.
I got to ask you, Matt. I mean, you stop me. You don't have insurance and you have it on your wife?
Yes.
We need to look back to the minutes when Kirk Cuffer was here. I honestly do think it was 100% from the employees and 50% for their spouse.
We changed that.
Yeah, we did change that.
Yes.
And
It
we
was changed last year.
And it was changed to just the employee,
Just the
correct?
employee.
And the reason we changed to just the employee is because the policy had some silly numbers. I mean, we looked at, and here's something we need to look at again. We had the policy change at the last minute. It was the last month. And
I remember this. I just don't think that, I really believe you guys are inaccurate on this.
But then why don't you look back at
we can look at this.
The
The point being is we've got 37 for today's meeting.
Okay.
We've got 37 that we spent last year towards medical, which may or may not be correct. And we've got 33 budgeted for this year. So between now and next Thursday, we need to find out what the discrepancy is,
I
what we're
agree.
actually paying.
Thank you.
Yeah.
and
No.
now, that's why I asked at the beginning of my discussion is what the policy is to pay 50% or 100%.
Yeah.
Now, you also have to look at the insurance contract. A lot of group policies, they won't allow an employer to only pay 50%. They will allow the employer to go as low as 90%.
Yeah.
I mean, meaning the employee pays 10% of their coverage. So the insurance contract needs to be looked at as well.
Thank you.
That was entered into with United Health.
So, Ron, what is your suggestion for going forward? Is this something we're just going to have to look at and then have another look at next Thursday when we have a regular
Well,
meeting?
yeah, I would say, one, you got to look at the insurance contract first, see what the group policy contract allows the employer to charge the employee. And then you got to look at the district's policy that was voted on. If the district policy doesn't match the group policy, then the district has to change the policy. And then the accounting, the budget item would only reflect the employer portion that the employer has to pay for health insurance on the employees that qualify, that work more than 30 hours. And the other side of it, the employee portion, is withheld from their pay and remitted to the insurance company. That's an accounting issue that really should be managed through a balance sheet account. And I can work with them on that. But that, again, has to be reconciled monthly, and it should be, ultimately, it should be a wash, zero out. And that, you wouldn't recognize revenue from that. You shouldn't recognize an expense for the employee portion. But it has to be managed or reconciled so to make sure it washes.
Right, and that goes with, okay. So, yeah,
Your whole 562011 column, the retirement, sick pay, vacation may play into this. Those numbers are exactly the same numbers that were in the budget versus actual at the end of March last year. So nothing went into those columns from March 20th forward last year. Really happen to pull up that budget.
What are you looking at? I'm sorry.
In the 2014 P&L statement, the 576 2011, that whole payroll benefits section, the numbers in that column are exactly the same numbers that were in there on March 20th, 2014. So it's possible that some of that 30 whatever thousand actually went in one of those columns. Or any of that,
50, which number are you on, Lynn? I'm sorry.
Payroll benefits right after salaries and wages.
Right?
Retirement, sick pay, vacation, that entire column, that
Oh.
entire subsection.
Got it?
Those are the same numbers that were reported on the March, at the March meeting last year.
No, it was, okay.
Thank you.
And that's quite possible. You find a lot of things
There's the medical right there.
put into lumps.
So, to come up with a budget number there, it really should only reflect what the employer portion is paying on the employees, the eligible employees. So I really wouldn't think it would be 33 or even $37,000.
Should be much lower. But I think that there probably is all the other employee benefits coming into that. That's probably what that
I wish I had a computer.
Well, and that could be
could be your sick pay, could be your retirement, could be your insurance, could be your everything. What'd you get from one? There's some nonsense. Oh, I don't have to do that.
Okay, I'm sorry for
No.
getting this help.
All the input from everybody's good.
It's very,
Yeah.
it's helpful and it's validating. So thank you.
So we're going to update the vacation pay, the medical, and the retirement. Vacation actually is this. All right. So employee, you put in here employee of the month and employee uniforms.
I think that number's close, guys. I hate to keep going back to it. But I just remember it was around $6,000 a person for insurance.
A year.
It was. Because I remember thinking, oh my God, it's like one of the biggest line items we had.
Mhm.
So it was, anyway, that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll review it. We'll have a better idea next meeting.
Yeah. Cool. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's why we're here. All right, so employee of the month and employee uniforms.
Sorry, where are you at?
I'm on page 2 of the expenses. That's the employee uniforms. We can pretty much think those are the rash guards and everything that we're seeing, correct?
Rash guards and the lifeguarding shirts
Oh, okay.
and suits. We only purchased one suit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's $30.
And that's the one for Michelle, correct?
That is correct.
Payroll benefits. So we have expenses for those last year, but we don't have them for this projected budget. Why?
Again, this goes back to what we were just talking about. It's all under the payroll benefits where we're trying to figure out where this is. And that goes back to page 1 where we were under payroll benefits with retirement and head coach.
Okay.
So it's something that I left it blank because I didn't know what we were doing with it.
Okay.
So is that a number that we're going to...
That's the one that we're working on for next meeting. Retirement and the sick pay and all that other stuff. Like medical.
What's paychecks? Are they do our paychecks?
That is our payroll processing.
Okay.
And we just named it so that we are able to see that instead of, it says payroll processing on there, but for us it's paychecks.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop people here. We went over payroll taxes.
Yes.
So payroll taxes, everybody's got to understand what that is.
Yes, please.
So it's the employer portion of Social Security and Medicare. It's federal unemployment tax. It's state unemployment tax. It's the employer portion of L&I. And all of those are calculated in different ways and different percentages. one way to simply look at it is to take last year's actual of $66,305 and divide it by the total salaries and wages of $444,000, and that's about 15%. So an easy way to come up with a budget number for payroll taxes is to take 15% of the current budgeted total wages times 0.15, and that'd be $74,600.
Then,
So 74,600.
So that's, assuming that all these payroll taxes work out to approximately 15%. And in reality, they do. They work out to about that because, that's, I guess, my way of coming up with an easy way of coming up with those numbers. Because I think 67 is probably low for the salaries and wages that are being budgeted.
Yeah,
And that's a relationship issue. There's revenues, or excuse me, head coaches' pay has to relate to revenues in that program, but payroll taxes are a direct cost of the wages, so you have to budget.
there roll your guys, Sean.
Sorry. Okay, sorry for stopping you.
No, it's good. That's great.
He's a fireman and he heard the fire truck.
Like a little kid. So,
I helped decipher.
thank you, thanks.
No problem.
And again, when I put that there, I just went off of what you guys had budgeted.
Okay.
Okay, it's good.
But see, I'm providing justification
No, that's
for that
good,
number.
yes.
I mean, you got it.
No, it's helpful for us, especially moving forward. I mean, it's that thing that there is probably a basis for it. We just didn't know what it is.
Yeah.
Now we're good.
WGEP insurance.
Endures.
Honduras. And Department of Revenue is,
Business taxes.
thank you.
B&O tax.
Okay.
what kind of,
B&O, business and occupation tax.
I don't know what that is.
It's the price that everybody pays for the privilege of doing business in the state of Washington. Sorry.
That is
I'm
well
sorry for being sarcastic about it, but that's,
I didn't get sarcasm from that at all. I was like, okay. So we actually have to pay that every year to the state of Washington.
And it goes up,
Okay, so it's...
how much?
well, it doesn't change a whole lot from year to year, but I don't know what the aquatic center is, what is subject to B&O tax, if it's retail admissions or
Admissions, the retail, some of the concessions.
yeah, and there again, we could make the same relationship like payroll taxes. We have these budgeted revenues for admissions that are subject to B&O tax. We multiply that times the rate, which is usually 4% or less.
So it's like a sales tax?
Kinda, but it's charged on gross receipts, on gross revenue. It's not charged.
They don't want to call it a sales tax because they already have that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's an additional privilege of doing business tax.
Business and occupation.
It's in lieu of filing, it's like your personal tax return sort of, how you have to pay taxes on the money you make, it's kind of like that.
Okay. So it's an income tax for business.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's
Ish.
that's probably a really bad way of saying it, but it's probably and the Department of Revenue probably wouldn't like to hear it like that, but that's really what it is. So, and I guess between now and next Thursday, someone should probably take a look at some of the revenue categories that are subject to B&O tax and do kind of a quick calculation and to see if this number is...
And I think one of the reasons that we put that up just a little bit was because we are selling more at the front counter than we had been previously.
And we were closed 5 weeks last year, but knock on wood, we will not be closed.
So,
Behind you.
So that would be justification for that number, that line item.
One thing you might, I mean, I don't know if you're doing this already. Let's put it this way. This is the way I would approach some of this, is based on what Ron's telling us in terms of, using this rate, if we have calculations that, and I understand I would have get some, I mean, it's a nice round number and that's really great, but if there's some, spreadsheet or whatever that kind of says, here's where we got this number, when projections change, we'll just go update it. Perhaps you already have that method in place.
All you need to do is go off of the monthly, or you could do quarterly excise tax return.
Monthly.
Okay, so the monthly excise tax return, on the top section is the B&O tax, and there are several line items. I don't know which line items, again, what revenues are falling in which category, but they all have different rates. And that would be the beginning of maybe a spreadsheet to figure this out. And all you would need to do is basically recreate the same formulas and put in your budgeted revenues for those line items times the rate to come up with the totals. So
Looks good.
All right, professional services?
Can I ask,
No.
why did our insurance go down? That doesn't usually happen.
Again, I went off of what you guys were budgeting.
So what is that insurance?
Oh, that's Honduras? Did we get a quote from Cheryl? She'll be at our next meeting.
Not yet.
So can we should we try,
I'll beg her again for it.
can you ask her again for a quote, projected quote for next year? Should be easy to get from her since she's coming next meeting, so.
I mentioned it to her on the phone when we were talking about other things, and I think that we got caught up in those other things, so I will
Okay.
ask her again.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, what year, we get it's August, isn't it?
It is.
Do we pay that in one lump sum in August, or do we pay it monthly?
I believe we pay it monthly. Right? No, we do pay it one lump sum. No, we do. We pay one lump sum.
Okay.
There you go. Insurance really, they're not really that forgiving, so.
I did find out that our contract with them hadn't been renewed.
All right.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry.
Where'd I put those towns?
Getting in
Yeah,
right.
professional services. New leaf. That one,
This one is your landscaping and mowing combined.
right.
So when it
All
says
right.
on your other,
Adjourn you.
when it says on your other budget, landscaping, which is way down one column, and mowing, which was completely in a different spot, I put them all together. Because I like to see things simplified just a little bit.
Okay.
And I took those two budgets, looked at them, added them together, and that's
Mhm.
where I came up with my number. And that's kind of following along what you guys had started doing on your 2015 budget, though I think you overshot the mark just a tad. And I just signed the New Leaf contract, and the numbers are pretty similar, or almost exactly to what they were last year.
And the one that has been a problem in the past, and obviously we see it directly here, and is legal. I can see a couple that are coming up here. Legal's hard to project.
Very much so,
Elections are hard to project,
yes.
especially with the turnover we've had. And the worst part is, one thing, and I have to look, I know I'm skipping ahead, I apologize. You left it with a highlighted box, good. Well, it's a good thing that it's highlighted. We have 5 elections coming up this year. We are
That's
going to
why
have to
I
pay
highlighted
for.
box, yes.
And I think it's
Your question
expensive.
is what?
It is
It is
I was going to say,
expensive.
how much is it?
About $2,500 per person.
I thought it was more than that. I want to say it was more than that. I want to say it was almost close to 4.
Was it?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what else is on the ballot, because it goes into, the way that it works is it's a shared expense, and would be divvied out among all the other things that have the same population base. So, I mean, if talk about being nebulous, I mean, it is, but that's exactly how it works, is based on the expenses, that we take our apportioned share of those expenses based on whatever else is on the ballot.
So if we use a guideline of what we paid in the past, what we can expect to pay for, well, what's on the ballot?
I think it's probably that's probably a fair county question.
All right, here's, because we're asking people to fill in blocks for the next one, what I will do is I will call Sheila or Tom. Probably would be best.
Who's Tom?
Tom,
Tony?
Tony, thank you. No, I thought it was
This
Tom.
is not a president.
No, it's Tony Lamb.
Tony Lamb, thank you very much. It's
This is
Tony
from
Lamb.
Deborah.
Tony Lamb. So what I'll do is I'll call Tony Lamb first. He's the assistant auditor in charge of elections. So what I'll do is I'll call Tony Lamb and get him to give me a non-quotable ballpark figure. Yeah. One elected official asking another elected official, it will not be quotable. But give me a ballpark figure for the election for this coming year. That way we can actually budget responsibly for it.
That's an appropriate kind of thing for the Park and Recreation District to get a ballpark figure.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So we've asked you to do, I can do that. That's
Great.
yes, I'll take care of that.
We're getting busier and busier.
Yeah.
So does this line item also include the state audit?
It will. And the worst part there is we won't know until after a state audit is complete. When is our next state audit due?
Probably October, maybe November.
Of this year.
Yes.
So we can figure we're going to have a state audit, which, hold on, give me a second. Considering the fact that we need to contact the state auditor and say we have some irregularities that we've coming out that we've discovered and we're in the process of fixing, we know that it's going to be not a quick audit, but a very extensive audit. So we should look at what we paid last time and budget that into this figure also. So Julie, if you can let me know, I think I've got that at home also, but we should look at that.
So if they come and do we're going to tell them we have issues with our budget. If they come and do the audit now, will that mean we don't have to have another one in the fall, or they'll do two?
Well, that all depends on their findings.
No, I don't. If you
With Troy, it will depend on what they come out. If we self-report and say we're in the process of reconciling, they may say, okay, we'll look at it when we come out in October as a scheduled audit.
That's what you would hope the discussion would.
Yes,
Right there.
and that's the idea there, is we don't want to have them come out multiple times.
Yes.
Not because we don't want the state auditor to come out,
No, it's expensive.
but that every time they come out, we have to pay for it. And if they're already scheduled to come out in October, we let them know that, hey, in the process of reconciling, we found some irregularities. We are in the process of finding where those irregularities are and adjusting the budget. We want you to know prior to your October audit.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they'll come out and look at those things.
Yeah, and they're not going to come out and audit the budget. They're going to come out and
Right.
audit the actual numbers. So
Right.
you just, some inconsistencies and irregularities in the actual expenses for 2014, and the accounting staff is working on cleaning that up.
And we'll look at that from the past and budget that in for the future.
So, that audit, if it happens in October, when would you have to pay for it? And
Generally, we pay for it in January of next year, actually.
yeah, so
Yeah, we won't pay for that this year. It will have to be in the budget for next year.
So we got to play it right this year.
Well, it's not about playing it right. It's when the fiscal year ends, which is
yeah, they if they come out in October, November, they're auditing 2014. They're not going to be auditing 2015.
They'll do it
And-
in 16.
And well, they don't come out every year.
And they did it in 17. Yeah.
Do they do 2 years at once? Or
They've done
Yeah.
historically with our district, it's
They've
been
done
2
2
districts.
years.
Bellingham this year, so that's probably what you need to call it. Dr. Livingston in Bellingham. Sorry,
They said there's a new person doing it.
we got a Bellingham office not that big now.
Yes.
So that's probably what you talk to.
So, might want to budget something in there just in case you get a bill before year end, but I suspect that most of the bill fee would be paid in January of 2006.
So something to keep in mind when we do 2016 budget. Okay. All right. Any questions on what we've got under professional services? The porta potty we got squared away.
We did get it squared away.
Okay.
Well, I know this is, I'm sorry for stopping. but
No.
Going back to legal, I know it's really a hard one to nail down. Is the board aware of any potential lawsuits or anything that's ongoing right now?
We have
I don't think that's not supposed to elicit
No,
laughter.
I guess I kind of missed it.
I think we need to knock on wood here.
No?
Not at
Nobody
this time.
That's always a big surprise, apparently.
Well, it's hard. It is a surprise, but if there's something that's ongoing right now,
The Andy Kane, and we can talk about this on public record, because the case is over. The Andy Kane case hung over our head for years,
Decades.
and I actually was finished this last fiscal year.
Okay.
And we spent a lot on that. We also had 2 unexpected lawsuits that we had legal issues with. Currently, there's nothing on the horizon. And I said, and you never know. I mean, as we
Right.
said, that is an ambiguous thing. However, there's no issues that I'm aware of that are going to cause us to go to court. So,
Not at this time.
Okay.
yeah. So, I think in the past, that's been one of those things.
I think I'm surprised though that the actuals for 2014 are as low as they are, because I recall a comment from our attorney just in the rewriting of the employment contract. So I think we have to ensure that we're considering all of the things. So this person is going to have to, at a minimum, review an employment contract, or that's our hope and expectation, as well as potentially some other policies, that
Good
we
point, yeah.
may be looking at. So
So we have a
while
director's
right,
contract coming up that we're going to have reviewed. So how much does it cost
Per
that?
hour. How much does the attorney charge per hour?
I have that written down in the...
$200?
Oh, it's more than
No,
200.
it's more than
$300.
It's somewhere between 3 and 5. That's
Yeah.
what most of them charge. So
Yeah, I have it written down.
so the comment that was made to us, and I feel like it, but it was that he saved us, I don't remember exactly, but it was something about he saved us at least $1,000 in the rewriting of the contract, and therefore his fee for the day was a bargain. And it was like, oh, okay. But that it represented a good portion of this money right there. And I just would want to be sure that we...
I had the same question as you did. And I know that I have a feeling that we may have paid out more than what we were able to find.
It seems really low.
Agreed. And so it's something that I had a question mark on last
can we ask Nathan's office?
Yes, right.
There's a simple
I
way.
have a call into him, and I will hit that as I'm hitting the other thing.
Ask for what we paid in the past, how much it was for, and that way it matches our books, and then we have something to base next Thursday's legal consideration on, because we have a one contract for a director coming up.
Right. Yeah, I have a call into him already, and I'll hit that at the same time.
Okay. Are there any other contract reviews or any other legal issues that we know of outside of going to court that we project in the next year?
And see, I would say yes, just because if we're looking at rewriting some policies, if we're looking at, if we're looking at making changes to things, I think that we should at least make an estimate to say we think it might take this many hours of time.
Right.
Something that, because I know there were some things that came up, and I can't remember exactly what they were, I apologize, but where he said, please call me first next time.
And this is something that was talked about earlier with giving programs expectations. You can look at it at legal as a program with expectations. How many times do we expect to use this program in the year? So do we want to go 20 hours at $300 some odd an hour, whatever Nathan charges us, and then project that into the budget? That's probably a little bit more realistic than, we've only got one contract coming up.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, is that's why I asked the billing rate. I mean, if I just take this number divided by 400, that's 16.25 hours. That's not a lot of hours. So just figure out what the billing rate is, and then
So we'll need to think about hours between now and next Thursday also. That's something I'm going to ask the board to do, what we think is responsible, to give the director forward.
I just remember, it seems to me like every time we're talking about something, we hear, I called the lawyer, and I called Honduras, which I think is the right response based on...
Well, Honduras we already paid for with our $50,000 here.
Yes, absolutely. And
All the way.
But it's all good, but it's still, the lawyer also needs to be called. So, I agree that there's probably some minimum number of hours we should budget in, and I'm looking at the 2014 $24,000 budget and thinking that's probably more right than...
This is your chance to stop me. One of the things that we look at as we go forward with our policies and our policy review is we say a human resource specialist, where we're spending $50,000 a year for Honduras, but that's not reflected in our policies. Note to all of us for future consideration and discussion as we review the handbook and the policies. So, not to get rabbit holed. All right.
Oh, but can we also take a look at why, sorry, just to
do it.
here, but on
Back on track.
the 2014 legal hour, am I looking at the right thing here? Because it shows a credit of $796.59.
That means the attorney paid you guys. So
Right, and you know what? I am willing to continue that sort of relationship. I am willing to do that.
So
However,
that's one of the expense categories that we identified as probably something got misposted. And what Erica has done here with this Excel sheet is she has reviewed that and come up with a different number of $3,842. So these numbers on this old out of the accounting system, something just must have gotten coded wrong. Why it has a credit balance? Maybe it's some of that payroll withholding for medical premiums that got credited to that account. It's a mystery.
Is it the fact that he uses our school nursing program?
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So, but those are the type of observations the board needs to make, is when they're looking at these reports. Is like, this doesn't make sense. And I'm sorry for my flippant remark.
No,
No, that's good.
please, we all do it.
Good.
You're part of the team. We appreciate it.
I, for one, do not make flippant remarks.
It's a good watch.
I object.
All right, so moving forward. Software virus, hardware. Now, Matt, I'm going to ask you a question. This does not have anything in the budget for fixing the heating, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We need to add that.
Well, we can if we choose to right now. That's something we can definitely discuss right now. Do we want to budget? And here's the thing that I brought. Now's the time to pull out Matt's list, and I'm going to compare it to exactly what
I buried it.
Mark Foster sent us.
Mark Foster sent us.
Well, he's going to come on the phone
Oh,
next
the
meeting.
energy
dude.
guy.
The
Okay.
energy dude.
Yeah.
The engineer that put together our failed bond, our failed grant. But Mark believes that our biggest savings can be found in putting together a couple things. Optimize the DDC, which is the computer-run heat exchange software.
Mm-hmm.
Matt has that, and this is where I'm going to get confused with Matt and Mark, and I apologize right now. Please throw something blunt at me. Matt has put down, is this the low bid, or is this in the middle of the bids for the software?
About in the middle of bid.
Okay.
Software. Just the software for the computer that can run what we have now.
Can it run on the computers we currently have?
One of them, yeah, my personal computer there at
Not your personal, but
Well,
the district's.
district's
Desktop.
Yeah,
desktop.
I just want to make sure I'm not budgeting for something that would be at yours, because that would
No,
kind
no.
of negate what we're trying to do. Okay, so both Mark and Matt feel that the number one thing we need to do to help us with the pool is to fix the computer program for our heat exchanger. The reason is right now, Matt keeps coming in at all hours. Thank God he's salary, and thank God you are doing what you're doing. To adjust it, the biggest expense, not the biggest, the largest jump in expenses we've seen, one of the largest, has been with our gas and utilities.
Yes.
And that happened 2 years ago. It was 2 or 3 years ago when PUD raised our rates, which was really nice of them. And it was a real gradual raise, like, you know.
It's like cooking or frozen.
Yeah. So one of the things, and this is like the reason I brought up Mark Foster, is because he verified the same thing that Matt's saying. So that this is where we'll see the most savings for our budget. If we're going to spend something, if we're going to budget for next year, for the rest of this year, and we don't have to do it right now, but if we're going to do something to help save us money in the long term, this is the way to do it. So if we want to do it now, we're talking about software and computers. Do we want to do that now or not? And it's just something to put in the back of our minds, whether or not we want to think about it now with the revised budget that we're doing, or whether we want to make it a special project. I throw that out there for your discussion.
Is he going to come back with, I believe I heard this, or I had a dream about it, which is really frightening, but that he's going to come back with revised.
Why do you do this?
Well, that would just be scary. That's all I'm saying. Like, oh, I dream about pool issues. Oh, great. But I know. I'm sorry. But that he's going to come back, Mark, that is, with a revised proposal.
Of what we can do as
That is true. That's what was discussed last
Yes.
time.
Okay.
You did not dream it.
Okay.
He is going to come back with a revised proposal.
Okay.
So,
My calculator had hit this, and I don't know if I...
oh, we're good. Don't worry about it. We're fine. Sorry for
No, that's
not still
okay.
counting, but thank you. Yeah.
He was like, are we really recording that?
Yeah. That's why we have two. No, that's why we've got two. That's a
You know,
good
you have
question.
to push the button pretty hard.
So I just want to throw that out
I
there.
thought you
for
said there was a
discussion.
combined, optimizing energy conversion would be a combined, or is it just number one, the heat exchanger software?
There's more than one part to this moving picture. And that's exactly what Mark can explain. And I'm going to bounce this off of
I have
Matt.
another copy of this. It wasn't in my packet.
There you go. And Matt's top 10, the one that he has as his top 10 is that software.
Yes.
The other things that Mark wants to talk about are the lighting upgrade, the envelope upgrades, which is Windows, and then the boiler replacement. Mark feels that the window upgrade needs to be done before the boiler does, just because you want to keep in, to find out what boiler to replace it with, you need to upgrade the envelope so you know what area and space you're heating. So that's Mark's suggestion. And remember, this is layperson throwing that out there. So that's all things we can either discuss as part of the budget as we move forward, or to keep that separate.
Now, if I understood correctly, tell me, if I understood correctly, not only have we been having this as an ongoing problem, but that we've had some spikes in the bill in the past few months that we think are related to this as well. Is that accurate?
That's
And like huge spikes in the bill.
Yeah, there was a couple of them that we just about passed out. So yeah.
Okay. And if I'm accurate in this, those spikes in the bill could have actually funded this. I mean, effectively, or pretty
Close to.
Okay.
Not quite, but
Okay. I mean, just in terms of an order of magnitude of, gee, we could have almost have this paid for if we would have, should we have known, but, you know, we can't know that.
This computer software has been going on for 2 years, right? It's about right.
yeah, almost 2 years.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. So I, for one thing, it's time to take care of it. Right? Just to sort of
So do we want to add that in the budget? Do we want to make it a separate item that we address?
I think it behooves us, based on the numbers, to add, find the money to get that software Because otherwise we're just going to
Since
spend
we're
it
gonna
in
amend-
increased energy costs.
And my suggestion is, since we're amending this budget next Thursday, that we add that in now to what we want to amend.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I
That's
thought.
just a suggestion.
The same way, Tricia.
Okay.
So I will put it here with the technology.
Because from what I remember, right, I mean, just for the both of you, that we had a software program, and then the company that we were paying money to, they were like, oh, by the way, we don't offer that software anymore, and by the way, we just cut you off, and we're not supporting it anymore.
We only do upgrades.
Yeah.
And the upgrade
Yeah.
costs this.
Yeah.
Which is a normal software life cycle. It's just, it sounds like it caught us by surprise.
Yeah, that we didn't anymore.
That was about 2 years ago, so, yeah.
Matt, what's the high end of this, so we can budget in the high end?
The high end, I'm pretty sure. I put
6,500.
65,
That's the
yeah.
high. That's what
That
it
is
said.
the
That
high
is the high end.
Thank you.
High end.
Okay, that is the high end. Thank you.
That's what I put on the budget.
So can we put that in under,
I have it under technology, right here. It's stuck it in.
Oh, you mean
Oh.
you just added it?
Because it's a computer program. This is, yeah, I just wrote it in.
Oh, okay. Apparently we don't have that good of technology.
Oh, yeah, stuff.
Sharon, I have to go. Can I just interject one thought before I went out the door? The 2012 budget versus actually the end of the year showed, I think that we ended about even, and yet we reported, like Kirk had reported, I think about a $30,000 or $40,000 loss that year. I'm not sure how that all played out. We lost about $92,000 in 2013. 2014's looking at like about 40 once all this gets worked out, and maybe more or less. And we've already moved 26 this year, which I don't know how that 92,013 got paid. I'm assuming it came out of reserve. I don't know if it got squashed into 14. I don't know how that all got reconciled.
it wasn't taken out of reserve, but we do need to know, yeah.
But my understanding was that when Bill Walker came, he said there was about 200,000 in reserve. And if what was reported last time is correct, and there was 75, we took approximately 30. If this deficit's running, let's say, just for the sake of argument, at 45, you can look at the last 2-3 years of revenue and say we can build a budget aligned with that revenue, because there's no backup plan now. And so I hope as you do all this, there will be a really careful look at the income side of it, because you can't look at the expense side and say, okay, if we stay in line with that, we're good, because we haven't been good for 4 years or 3 years. So I just hope that will all really be a part of this, because I think the other questions I have is, how long does the county float us when the next lovely installment comes? If our debts exceed our ability to carry ourselves going forward, are they going to make us pay all those debts when the levy installment comes in? Or can we keep some of that cash so we can continue to pay payroll? And I don't know the answers to those, but I think those are all important questions for you to know as you budget, because there won't be a trough to go back to say, let's advance ourselves payroll money.
Tony will not let us, and this is a discussion I have with Tony, he will not let us go with that. By that, but at the same time, they won't float us money. So how does that work? I don't know the details. I'd have to talk more with Tony to see.
I mean, we know we're being
Yeah.
floated now, which we always have been, because we
Right.
start this year at zero, and they let us spend money they know is coming from the levy. But if we don't have any cash to pay payroll, which is what we ran into now, and taxes, are they going to let us say, let's say there's $200,000 in levy revenue that comes in, and we've spent $180,000, and I know those numbers aren't right, Lord Jesus. Are they going to make us pay that whole $180,000 back to them and start floating off the next levy installment?
Okay.
Or are they going to say, you can pay for 100 of that now, keep 80 so you can carry yourself through to that in the fall and keep going? And those are all questions I just think are important for you to know, and then to look at that monthly revenue so you know, because that, like I said, I don't think that backup plan is going to be there again. The other thing is, if the 90,000 did not come out of the reserve, this is why I think it's really important to look carefully what happened to the 200 and got us there. It came from somewhere, which may mean it's carried in 2014. and all of a sudden you have $92,000 in 2014 expenses that were actually 2013. I don't know how else it gets paid. I mean, maybe there's another something. But
It's got to zero out somewhere. It just
yeah,
can't.
it got paid somewhere. So I just think those are really critical questions, the answers to be able to make good decisions going forward. So, thank you.
No, thank you.
Have
So-
a nice day, Lynn.
Thank you.
So once everybody goes through the expenses and totals it up, then you got to look to see if the revenues, if that you're going to support that. And if they don't, then you got to go back through the expense line items and start cutting.
Isn't it smarter to start with, here's what our income is?
Well, it is, but we've already gotten into the expenses here, so.
You put the firemen in charge.
Oh, that's right, we did.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I didn't, but oh yeah, I did 11.
Yeah, technically you did. All right, we're going to take another 5-minute break because I got the itty bitty bladder committee going. So at 11:25, we're going to take another 5-minute break.
Hello, got on the board in October, and
Oh.
and we kept saying, we need to look at the budget. Did we not?
Yes, we did.
Bring that up continually, and now what month is it? It's April, we're finally looking at the budget.
Yeah. So yeah, the admissions revenue, I'm sorry, I don't mean to start
No.
before we're supposed to.
Go for it.
That is a variable, and it's hard to know how many people are going to come in the door.
And I get that, but that's why it seems to me we should be looking quarterly, we should get or monthly, saying, here's where, this is where we are, here's, we're red, green, or yellow, in, as far as, our revenue isn't anywhere near where it should be at this point in the year, or, it looks pretty much on track.
Yeah.
We should be, for us, we should be looking at that, because
By
cutting spending or saying, okay, we're good.
I think a big part of the way is that, when you're cutting, how do we increase our revenue?
Okay, so we'll call the meeting back into order at 11:35. Real quick, because we don't want to, we spent 2 hours here, which is good, a solid 2 hours. Ron has to go, and we all want to move forward with this. Let's quickly look at the rest of the expenses, and I mean quickly, I want to wrap the expenses up in 10 minutes. So are there any glaring things that we cannot discuss, that we need to discuss now, I should say?
What's Team Uni, ESOP?
Tracers.
Team Unify.
Team Unify, eSoft, and Tracers, those are software programs that we use. Tracers is our background program, our background check.
Right.
eSoft is our point of sale and our swim lesson organization program. And Team Unify is what we use to run the swim team.
How much does Team Unify cost in a year?
It's not that much, actually.
Well, and we know we're going to have to be doing some background checks. So,
So I need to budget a number in here.
yeah.
And we did figure that out, but like, remember when I had that moment when it didn't save?
when it didn't save. Gotta love that.
And we went back and fixed most of them, but I think we missed a couple.
Okay, so how much, something to look at for Thursday is that
We have-
Clover Valley,
Tracers,
Tracers, I did like $40 a month.
it's $40 a
Sometimes
month.
it's 40, sometimes
So
it's
zero.
25.
So about 3,700.
so 3,800.
Sure.
Yeah, that was one of those that didn't save because it was being silly.
Yeah, because I know we have it.
Yeah, we did.
What is Clover Valley DEV?
Clover Valley Development, I don't really know what that is, but it was in the budget and I stuck it in there. I didn't know whether that was...
Developing the dog park, I believe.
I believe it is developing the dog park. However, no money was spent on it, and which I don't 100% believe. I just don't know where it went or what bucket it got taken into or put out of or whatever the case may be. But when it's the line item, there was nothing spent. However, I do know that we do spend some over there. Matt gets the poo bags for the dog poo bags, and we do get some landscaping done. Fetch does some of that, and New Leaf will every now and then pop in there and get the really high stuff down. And we pay water over there as well. And that
That's
water
in the
is
back on the utility.
yeah, the water is back on the utilities, and it's like $214 a year.
Okay.
It's not very much.
I would say as we're reapportioning things, if we can somehow make sure that the dog park, or the ballpark and the dog park get, just so that we can then see where this money going, you know, and that it's actually, so then when people say, you know, you're just the pool, it's like, no, we're this ball field too. We spent $200 on this ball field last year.
As we're moving through expenses, I think we need to take out the awards and incentives for NWAC. It's a small thing, but I think that needs to come from someplace else.
Agreed.
And I agree.
NWAC, right here.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
Awards and incentives, those are for the kids, and as much as I do want to award the kids for what they do, I don't think that the taxpayers should be doing
Okay.
that. I think we need to leave that up to the coach and the program.
Okay, that works, and we can get...
Not that the coach should carry the cost. It's
No.
that he
No, no, no,
should
no.
get
Right,
the
that-
money from the
From the
parents.
parents.
Determine the funding.
Exactly. So, let's
Okay.
remove that line item, please,
Gotcha.
unless there's an objection from the board. No?
I think this is one of the reasons Coach and I have had several Booster Club conversations.
Okay.
What is the, so PNS dues and meet fees, aren't all of those, isn't that a pay-through? I mean, that's what the members
That one
pay?
is a pass-through. yeah.
It is pass-through.
So why
should
do we
should
budget that?
We should not have, this should not be a budget item,
No.
should it?
Well, you're going to need to leave a little bit there because there are things that happen where basically what happens when a new swimmer joins, we register them with PNS, we forward that, we bill the parents.
Mhm.
Same thing happens with meet fees, we're paying in advance. We do have circumstances where we are not recouping that.
So just in that process, what she just described, that would mean you would recognize the expense and the revenue. Because
Okay.
the district is facilitating the billing process.
And we've done that?
As long as that's
No,
also
we
in
have
the,
not done that.
it should make sure that it's in the revenue so that it
It
zeroes
should
out.
offset.
Yes, so that we're not thinking we need to come up with
It
levy
needs to be
money pay.
separated out in the revenue because like where she has the NREC dues at 60,000, I think that 60,000 is
Okay,
including
stop,
all of those.
stop. I'm going to look at this real quick because I'm talking about one subject right now. So, meet fees and PNS dues, there's line items in here. But what I see on my expenses should come back to my revenues here because it's a wash, correct? So I can take my PNS dues and meet fees and go, whether it's 5 and 5 or 6 and 6, just off the top of my head. I'm going to split those in half. Is that fair, Julie?
Probably, yeah.
So I can put 6,000 in meet fees, or 5,000, I'm sorry, and then 5,000 in PNS dues, and it's a wash. Correct? Because we need to show that. Because as people have said earlier, we're running a microscope, so we need to make sure, as Ron said, if we show it, and we should, because we take it in and we bill it out, that we need to put it in both items. Okay, so
Absolutely.
we've gone through NWAC and Masters, aquatics, looking at the equipment, the kayaks, and the kayak supplies. Any questions, comments, or concerns there?
Hang on, I'm sorry.
And the reason I put the equipment in there is because, unfortunately, I do have to buy a little bit.
Okay.
I've patched, taped, and made do with as long as I can. So, I need a few things. Not a lot. I might not even spend all of that. In fact, I will do my best not.
$1,000?
I think I can probably hit under that.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah, I have to replace a few things.
Aquatics, this would be like our swim and aerobics and all that?
Mainly for swim lessons.
And all we need is $1,000?
Yeah,
Okay, moving on.
because I've done some looking around. I put the 10 grand in there for the kayaks because that's what we had agreed on when we asked Pete to do we allowed Pete to make his kayak purchase.
Right, and it was actually 80...
I was going to say he came in about $1,100 under that.
Yeah, it was 8,000 something. I know.
8,800 and something. So.
Good, okay, good. Oh, Cascade Natural Gas.
Just up here on maintenance expenses very quickly. You guys had small tools and equipment budgeted at 0. I do know Matt needs hoses, and I know that he needs hoses because I was wrapped up in about 50 feet of them the other day. He needs hoses. And we do have a few other things that need to be replaced.
Is 1,000 going to cover that?
Do you think that's fair for hoses and, yeah, thinking it should work?
Vehicle maintenance. Is this where we want to talk about the vehicle? Because I know we have all these vehicles that are just sitting there rusting and not being used.
And we would need to dispose of them the same way as we would anything else. And again, for us to do that, I will need to get you all the specs, just like we did for the others.
Are there any of the vehicles that we should keep?
Yes.
Okay.
Not all of them, though.
Yeah, and that's what I think. So is vehicle maintenance for the ones that we want to keep? Or is some of the ones that are just sitting there not being used?
We still,
We're not fixing any of the ones that are just sitting there.
Okay, so the vehicle maintenance is for the ones that we actually
It's for
use.
the one that.
They're one. Is there one, two that we actually use? Okay.
we have 4.
Yes.
So
Okay.
we would look to possibly dispose of 2.
2 pickups, a van.
No, one pickup, 2 vans, and a.
Like a Subaru or
Isuzu
something.
I don't even know
Trooper.
what you call that
It's an
thing.
Isuzu Trooper, I
Yeah,
think.
it's a trooper.
So why would we?
We got a
keep the
hoopty.
van?
Well, Pete uses them for.
That makes sense. There you go.
kayaks.
Gotcha. Cool.
So,
All right.
But we do know that the one needs brakes.
yes, the one van does need brakes.
The one that he uses.
Yes.
Okay. Is that something,
Is that accounted for in here?
It's not a vehicle maintenance.
Okay.
I don't know if we need to go up on that.
Is that 3,000 going to reflect the brake job is I think what we're looking at.
And how much of it can you do?
Brakes are
When
a
you're-
pain,
when you're
brakes
not
are a pain in
thinking
the...
it, you know.
I'll tell you this right now, brakes are a pain in the hoo-hoo. Is it a Ford?
No, it's Dodge.
I don't think the district should rely on it. I'm not doubting your skills,
It's fine.
but for liability purposes,
Liability
the
purposes.
district
Yeah.
needs to have that done by a professional
Yeah.
brake shop, right?
So I don't... 3,000 is a little on the
Sorry.
low
He hates
side.
that idea, clearly.
3,000 is a little on the low side for maintenance
Maybe
plus a
the-
brake job.
Maybe we need to put that up a little.
Let's look at putting that up. And this is something we can come back to on Thursday, so let's just look at that.
And maybe with if we are able to dispose the other ones. that
All right.
would offset that.
The utilities, these are based off of what, Erica?
Well, the utilities for the first one there is based off of what you guys had budgeted for the 2015 Cascade Natural Gas, and that 148,686 was the lump sum that had been put in there.
Right.
What we actually paid is, of course, all the way over there on the right, and I think those numbers are going to be adjusted. However, if we do get this computer program put in, I think that we could shoot closer to that 56 too than the 68, nearly 8 that we paid last year.
So just looking at your 2015 numbers, it's 20,687 through April, well, I don't know if it's probably through the end of March.
It's through the end of March.
And it probably slows down in the summer months.
It does slow down considerably in the summer months, I believe.
why do you think our, I'm looking at budgeted for 2014 for water, sewer, garbage, and it was 10,000 more. Did the water fees go up? Did we use more water somehow? Did we spring a leak?
Do you remember the part where the pool was empty? We emptied the pool. When we had that catastrophic pump failure, it sucked all the water out of the
This
pool.
is
Okay.
before her day, I mean, or part of your...
Yeah,
you're-
This is her, like,
Although
her awareness of,
historically,
yeah.
we had
We
emptied
do.
the pool once every
I
August.
thought that's
August
something we
every
do every year. So did we empty the pool this year twice or once it got sucked
We
out?
only emptied it once. We didn't do the maintenance. I think part of this is there was no garbage budgeted, and the garbage had, and this is why it went up higher, is because the garbage had not been budgeted or not in 2014 or 15.
Okay.
It just got thrown in with the water bill. So since it all comes from the city of Oak Harbor, we just put it all together as water, sewer, and garbage. We put all the water together, and we added the garbage in.
Okay.
I could be wrong here, but know that during Craig Carlson's years, for example, they drained the pool every August. Under Bill Walker's tenure here, he had elected the one year not to, and that may be where that budget, it wasn't budgeted in. And then we had the catastrophic failure, which caused us to drain the pool. But, I mean, I don't know if that somehow ties in there, but I know there was that one year where Director Walker had decided not to, with the board's approval, of course.
We don't need to drain every year.
Yeah. I know Craig always did, I believe.
And I think, well, and I know that we had talked about it because we do have some things that need to be repaired, and in order for those to be repaired, we do have to take the water, at least mostly down.
Lights and stuff, right?
All those lights and things like that.
Yeah.
So of course, those are not super high on the
Which
priority
brings us back to that point, I guess I have to ask, because that happened last June timeframe, June of 2014, which we did not drain the pool in August of 2014.
Correct.
Now we're coming up on August of 2015, and what is the plan for that this year?
I don't think we've talked about it yet.
Okay, well, we
It's a
probably
conversation
need-
we need to have.
We do, because it will affect the budget, it will affect the water, and
Can I don't know if we reconciled back to your point of here's where we are today, and explain that. And I'm sorry, I was trying to follow along and find the right places. So given through April 9th, apparently we've spent $20,687. If we do the math for that, then that puts us way over. I mean,
Yeah,
if we extrapolate a number.
Yeah, if you just simply, let's say 25% of the year through the end of March, the whole would be almost $83,000 in natural gas. That doesn't take into account a decreased usage during the summer months. With the experience that you have, how much of a decrease in the summer months?
Going to depend on the weather.
And, you know, this is one of those numbers that is hard to nail down exactly, but
Well, the problem here also is we've got a mild winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
So how much of this number reflects usage or because of the computer system? I mean, where and how do we go forward and budget for this?
Yeah,
I would personally, I would go with based on what we've seen, what we currently have.
Uh-huh.
Right? I mean, I know it's, that we say, well, we don't know, and we could compare it to historical numbers, and maybe there's some help there, but we know we've already spent $20,687.77 this year.
A quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you multiply that times 4, because there's 4 quarters in here,
It's almost 83,000.
yeah.
so we're a little short there.
But you know, 83,000 is pretty high compared to
The
even
68 last year.
yeah. So you might want to bump it up to 70,000 to.
And I think that this is another thing that we look at with this computer program. Anytime that the temperature in the pool changes, our chemical use changes also.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
And hopefully, if the software gets purchased and online, this number would
That
go
could
down.
help that number go down and what we spend on pool chemicals to go down too, because higher temperatures require more chemicals. So if we're able to maintain at our agreed upon 82 degrees, our chemical usage should stay steady.
Right.
Or we're not, and right now we're doing this.
That homeostasis will be constant.
So are we
That's all really smart.
gonna increase?
Make myself feel good.
Are we gonna increase the budgeted amount for utilities to make sure that we?
Well, I think that this number was unfortunately way too low.
Yes, I agree.
56,000.
No, this is what they had budgeted. They had it all lumped into one big sum.
Oh. I
So
was
let's
just
look at the 56,000 and bump it up.
I was just talking about natural gas, or maybe electricity.
All right. Something to think about for Thursday is the natural gas. And how do we want to look at that?
So I think that Ron probably has a good point. I think 70,000 might be closer.
You know, again, it's. I think
It's
56 is probably low based on what you've already spent for the year.
And based on what we spent last year.
You know, if we
Which
take
was
the first
68.
3 months and then assume that we'd spend the same amount in the last 3 months of the year, well, that's quite a bit of the budget already, and I don't know. I guess I would bump it up we're looking at all these expense categories, and we don't have a total here, but the numbers in my head are getting pretty big, so I'm hoping the revenue is there to support it.
Let's talk, since we're talking about revenue, let's look at it.
And just really quick, I personally I would feel more comfortable with on the natural gas, just as a closing thing, I would probably even take this number and just add 10% or some percent, just because if we believe that, and again, if I did understand it correctly, if we believe that there is a greater fluctuation than usual, and that's part of that 20,000 number, if we were even looking at getting a software program, I mean, that we think is going to help compensate for some of that, then when would we have it in place? So I would probably...
75,600. It comes from the math guy.
Taking last year's, you're saying taking last year's?
I would.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because we believe that there is some fluctuation due to kind of all factors combined, which we may be able to fix, but if we can't, we still have to pay the bill.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Well, and just what I've seen in the last 3 months alone in our temperature fluctuations in the pool, that would account for what we've got going on here, because they have been up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. So, and Matt's been in there fixing it every single day, and every time he does, it costs us money.
Yeah.
All right. Revenue. Let's talk about revenue. Levy income's not going to change. 59,947. That's not going to change.
Okay.
Correct?
Correct.
That's the one thing about our revenue we know is solid. Thank God. And let's talk about general admission. What did you base that on?
What you guys had budgeted, you had $100,000 budgeted, and that's why I said combined. You just gave me one big old lump sum.
Okay.
Without being broken down at all, so I tried to break it down.
Okay. So what we have here is the projected estimates
Yep.
for our revenue for this year. In open swim or in family swim are at 40,000. We tracking about right, so we should have about 10,000 for the first quarter. We have about 10,000 for the first quarter.
11,878 for daily admissions.
All right, so we're good there. Passes, and then this is all the one thing I'm looking at. Are we tracking with revenues according to our P&L?
Yeah.
Okay.
Passes, it says
Wait,
70.
are we?
Well, passes. So passes so far we're at 75, 76, and projection for the year was 22,000. So
So it's over.
that would actually indicate that we're pretty far ahead there.
But, wow.
So the posting to this for revenues, how
It's through March 15th.
okay.
Punch cards
Minus
is
1 day.
no.
Punch cards is, though those pick up in the summer.
Well, and punch cards, I think that the way that they had projected that was all punch cards, including aerobics punch cards, and those are now separated, so that may be why there's that difference. I don't know without reading down further, but.
Okay, but so
Punch cards are 19. Where do you get punch cards here? 20. Oh, that's not doing it. 22.
You guys, we had budgeted for 2014 30. We came in a little under that, so I adjusted.
Okay.
Well, and that's also part of the reason for that is that difference in separating out aerobics punch cards.
Yeah.
Special events.
So what's a special event?
This would be egg swim,
Oh,
our
okay.
daddy-daughter dance.
Am I reading this wrong?
I'm not quite sure why it says 16,000. I was questioning that actually. It's because that's what was on the original 2015 budget. We just transferred over.
Transferred that over.
I don't think that's going to be a good number.
I think
Okay, then it really
I
isn't
can-
our projection.
I can
Then,
get you
yeah.
a better number, but
let's get a better number on special events because 16,000, and I'm looking here, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at 1548.
Where are you?
Where's
yeah,
1548?
where's your 1548 that you're looking
Am I looking at 2000, January through December?
Well, no, now are we looking at the
I'm looking at
January
Yeah.
through April
You are-
to figure out?
yeah.
Oh,
Am I correct?
What are you looking at?
For last
Yep,
year.
now I see where you're looking.
We need to look
Yep.
last year.
I'm looking at last year's.
Yeah.
And I'm going, we only did 16
No,
there.
this year it's 887 so
Is
far.
it this year 887?
And we haven't even gotten
Okay.
most of our events going yet.
Oh, well, this is only one quarter of last year. This is
Correct.
not the full year. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, of this
Well,
year.
no,
Wait,
that's
no, no,
January
there's-
to December is the full year.
The January through December is the full year.
Okay.
Here's one of those special events programs, 880, 780.
You got 88780 there?
Where are the special events? I don't see special events.
On page 2,
Oh,
the first fourth of this page, right here. Special events
special events
program.
card, I see. Okay.
And I think that some of the special events
887.
revenue
right?
came into the general admission fund instead of being funneled the way it should have.
It did. Last year? It
Okay.
did.
Well, what about
So
this
would you
year?
say
That is at
$5,000 is
887.
more accurately?
Oh, this year, the 887 should be 100% accurate.
Okay.
We actually have it
Okay.
bundling in aquatic-based special events.
Times
versus
4, that's about
non-aquatic.
24,
Sorry, one
2500.
competition. Sorry, guys.
What's that?
Nothing, I can't decipher when two people are talking. I was trying to, I can't.
Gotcha.
I can't, so I heard nothing.
I was
Um,
answering you, Sean.
So in other words, sorry,
There
go
you
ahead.
So if we look at 88780 from January to April, that's correct for this year, for the
There
first
is-
quarter?
There is actually around $500 not entered yet that occurred after the date that this is through.
So that would take us to
This is through
13.
yesterday, right?
I haven't entered the revenue beyond March 15th. So we had a $500 special event on Monday.
But that's in April.
That's not added.
So then let's not look at that. So looking only at 88780 times 4, that's going to give me somewhere around,
34 something.
Oh, I did it wrong, sorry.
It's like $3,400.
Yeah, it's right.
Yeah. Have you looked at,
3,500.
what are the things that are special events and what they should bring in? Is that how that 16,000 came?
We don't know. That 16,000 came from what had been done by previous commissioners and directors. and-
Budget
Okay,
numbers.
can we ask that you come up with a number that actually is,
Yes.
More accurate.
based on,
Yep.
yeah, for us?
And one thing to keep in mind with that, a lot of our special events that generate revenue are in the latter part of the year.
And this, in my concern again is this is, looking at last year's budget and saying, where'd this income figure come from? And if somebody made a guess.
what I'd like to suggest is we take the one quarter we've done and look at the rest of the year and say we're looking at what Ron just came out with was about 3,500 and use that as a more realistic number than 16.
That's if the first quarter is a good gauge of the activity. If she
Yeah,
said
It's
that,
not, though.
It's
That's,
not?
she was saying that there are more special events.
Mid to end of the year.
Yes.
The majority.
Enough to make up.
Well, if we did a $500 special event every month, that would be $6,000. So you're going to be somewhere, we'll calculate it more and work on it
Okay,
on Thursday.
so we'll get a better number on
Yep,
special events.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. All right. And we already looked at aerobics. Okay. Feeling better there.
And I think a lot of this is with the coding. We need to code these so that they funnel into the right places. You're able to see that reflected better.
It really is. There was,
We always knew this $83,000 on envelope was wrong.
I think 60,000 is even a little high for this year.
I think that 60,000 must include the USA registration fees and the meat fees we collect because of the way they were all lumping previously.
Okay, since we're doing P&S separate and meat fee separate, is it safe to say, and that's 10,000 right there, using my dumb fireman math, that takes that 60,000 down to
To about
50,000?
50,000.
Does that sound about right with the number of swimmers we have?
I would say probably more around 40.
More around 40?
Well, if you have $60 a month for dues as an average, 50 swimmers, we only charge dues 11 months of the year, that's $33,000. If you had $100 a month times 50 swimmers times 11 months, that's $55,000.
But we don't,
Most of them pay 53.
so 53, let's do 53.
So
What? You want to do 53?
Yeah, let's do 53.
that's why I kind of use
3
60 as an
times-
even.
Times 50? That's what you said, right?
Yeah, there's about 50.
They only play for 11 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's 29,150.
Ooh, baby.
I wouldn't do the 53 because your gold swimmers are paying 60.
Well, and that's your
So
silver
let's bump
swimmers
that up
pay
to
60.
3,100, so still
Yeah, I'm
it's more
going to say,
realistic.
I put an average at 65 personally.
And I know Coach has got a very what I consider to be a pretty good meat or fee raising.
If you went with an average of 65 a month for 50 kids for the year, that's giving them August up, which we do not have to do August with no payment. We always have. That's $35,750 is what it is.
Why do we do that?
And it's because so many of the kids left. They just wouldn't pay in August because of vacations, because historically we were closed for 2 weeks in August. We emptied the pool out. So it really wasn't like they were getting the
No,
month
they weren't
off
getting,
free.
they weren't getting a month free.
We
You
just-
figure
yeah,
2 weeks off
yeah,
for summer break,
yeah,
or a week
yeah.
off for spring break.
Yeah.
And then the pool was closed for 2 weeks. In the
Yeah.
past, historically, what they've
Yeah.
done, not that it's right or it's wrong,
That's what historically it was.
historically, that was the
Yeah.
rationale behind it.
Yeah.
And we all know that, and that's a whole separate discussion.
Yeah, and I think some of it was, honestly, let's be honest, is to retain kids. Because if people start getting a bad taste from us, what do you mean you charged me a full month and we didn't even swim, you know? Yeah, so,
Yeah, I would agree if they're not swimming, we should pay
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
And coaches also suggest...
Now, on that top of that $35,750, you'd have the masters.
That's
Part of
separate.
that. But
Aren't they
that
on
is
here?
separate.
I separated them out.
But shoot, I mean, if you really look at that, at 50 kids, paying an average of $65 a kid, that's $36,000 roughly.
Just a quick note, Erica, because it's the second time it's come up. I would be reticent to have him bring up a fee schedule independent of the program review. I think they need to go hand in hand because, at least for my personal opinion, is that we need to apply a mathematical science to how much we're charging, as opposed to this sounds like a good amount. And perhaps he's done that on his own. I expect that he probably has. However, it's going to have to, I mean, we're all going to have to agree on what that is.
And his suggestion was that we don't put a new fee schedule for swim team in place until August, just due to the way that the swims run, which would give us time to do our program.
For a short
Can I
course
just
season.
throw something out? If you went with that $36,000 for those 50 swimmers, and then you say that he bumped it up 10 kids per month for the last 6 months of the year, that's going to generate another $4,000. I'm inclined to go with what Julie said, and that's the 40 versus the 60. 60 is very unrealistic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's
I think
just
we've all
yeah,
nodded
40.
our heads on that one.
I think 40. I mean, that would be the 36 currently, and then if you figure if he bumps that up 10 kids a month for the last 6 months, it shows
Okay.
growth. But
So beat up swim team,
Yeah.
40,000. Masters is realistic.
What do we have for master?
45.
how many people are on Masters?
I am
10?
only, I don't think it's even that much right now.
So say
We're billing
8.
out for masters.
Is there about 8?
I am only
6?
aware of 3 or 4
Well,
that come
there's-
in regularly
There's some
paid.
that come in the morning.
That was 6.
Maybe.
They pay $50 a month?
53.
53?
Some of them have punch cards.
Oh,
They're not paying.
Wait.
whoa, whoa, whoa,
And
whoa,
they're
whoa.
not masters.
They're not
They
masters. You
They
can't be a
are.
master and pay a punch
We
card.
have a master's punch card.
Bubba?
We have a master's punch card. We've had it the whole time I've been there for
They're,
years.
they're not masters if they're not, in my opinion, if they're not paying.
Well, if you have 6
$53.
paying $53 and they're paying for 11 months, that's $3,500. That's if they, yeah. So.
So cut that down to 3,500.
Should cut that down to 3,500.
And we've received 6,000 in, around 6,000, 2014.
All right, and then swim meets, he's doing one swim meet next year. That's all he was able to do.
He's trying to do one this fall.
Okay.
And that's the one. Or,
Yeah.
or
He
he's
was-
got 2.
He would have had to have bid for a spring last year
Okay,
before he
but
was
that's, I'm just trying to clear up my head. It's like,
He's-
we're going to have one this year, 2015.
provided. Yeah, we're
Or he's bidding, he's hoping to have one.
So this 62-22-80 represents
the one swim meet that we had last year.
And that was the
Can I ask you one
gross.
question, Erica? What would be the chance of him garnering a master's swim meet? Because I know in the past I announced twice for masters, and they were well attended. Oh my goodness, they were well attended.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any chance he could get one of them?
Can ask him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Swim lessons.
Sorry, I'm going to write myself a note here.
Yes, ma'am.
So what we had for 2014 revenue, what you guys had budgeted was 108,700, which included our private lessons. We've broken those down. So what you guys have budgeted for 2015 is 82,379. I project that we will hit more like the 85,000, just due to the fact that right now my levels are filling up so fast that I could use more teachers and fill up even more. In 2014, we received $86,226 from the swim lesson program. Private lessons, we agreed on $2,741. I am projecting more than that due to the fact that my private lesson program has quadrupled in the last year. And
In light of recent events, is that going to affect that bottom line?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
We're covering those
Okay.
like nobody's business. Rhiannon is working her tail off getting the few covered.
And we'll discuss that in executive session.
Yeah, during the meeting. And so what we received in 2014, which the swim lesson, private lesson program began to explode about August or September of 2014, so we do see some of that reflected in that $17,039.50 that was received in 2014 for those.
Okay.
School group lessons, that is pretty much what we've gotten. I'm not sure where that went last year. It may have gone into rentals. It may have gone, couldn't figure out. But I took the amount of kids that we had and what we had received and what we've had this year so far and what we're projected to have and came up with that number based on the amount that they pay. Lifeguarding class, again, I have no idea where that went in 2014 because it wasn't its own separate line item. But based on the amount of kids we have in our current lifeguarding class and the fact that we have another one scheduled for next month that's filling up, and we usually do one again in the fall, which sometimes is well attended, sometimes it's not. I took that into consideration and came up with that 4,800. The WSI LGI class, this one is a pure profit class because you do not pay me to teach it. So we currently have one of those classes going now, and I have the WSI class starting next month. No, end of this month. And then kayaking class, I think Pete is going to do a little bit more. He's been having more and more requests coming in for his kayak classes.
Well, he has new boats.
He has new boats, and he has got people coming in. We're taking several messages for him a week about classes.
But he hasn't had any classes yet.
He's currently in the middle of one right now.
So why isn't there any revenue recognized for the year on that?
I think that comes as a payment from Skagit Valley College, so we'll receive it.
We haven't received it yet.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You can pull me back on course, my friend, but since we're talking about kayaks. Has Pete ever looked at possibly doing trips? Because I know through the Navy he does that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like once every couple of months he'll do a trip where he takes people out to like Olispit, Hope Island, all that. Have we ever looked at doing something like that?
I know he takes them to Deception Pass.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking like it's a day trip.
Yeah.
You pay $50 and you're going kayaking with Pete out to Hope Island, for example, using our boats.
He has that offered.
Oh, does he?
I don't think we promote it very well,
We
so I
haven't
think
prom-
that's something as
Okay,
we move
all right.
forward.
He
Thank
has
you.
it. He has it offered, and he
Okay.
did tell me how much he charges for those. So it's a matter of promotion for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to. I think it would be great.
Sound like a hoot.
Because these kids go through these
That's
kids,
not fun.
individuals go through the classes, and then they never really get a chance to use that.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm back. Sorry.
No, it was good because I was doing Flintstones math. That's what firemen call it. So guessed it on the numbers we've got here. All right, I haven't done what we've actually budgeted for. And this is something, I love Excel, but I like the sum box at the bottom. Because like I said, I'm an apples and oranges type of guy. And I got to see how many apples I got and then how many oranges I got and whether I can open up my fruit stand.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I've got no clue. So would you please put a sum box in here for our projected? Because right now I've got